Hey friends, before we dive into tonight's story, did you know that nearly 80% of the people who watch these videos aren't subscribed? If you're enjoying this kind of content, consider hitting the subscribe button. It really helps a lot, and it keeps these long stories going. Also, I'd love to hear from you. What time is it right now where you are, and which city are you listening from tonight? And if these stories help you sleep, feel free to tap the thanks button to support the channel. It truly means a lot. All right, let's get into it. Officer Hayes here. I called it in exactly at 2:17 hours. Dispatch, I'm on scene under the Pine Street overpass. I've got one subject, possibly down, hearing voices. My words crackled through the radio, but inside my patrol car, all I felt was the hollow echo of that concrete canyon. The temperature gauge read 41.5. Breath curled in the beam of my flashlight as I stepped onto the damp asphalt. My boots crunched over shattered glass and soggy flyers advertising last month's community outreach. The underpass was a cathedral of shadow. Towering pillars smeared with graffiti, barrels blackened from someone's late-night bonfire, plastic sheeting flapping like ghostly drapes in the draft. Somewhere beyond the glare of my headlamp, a faint rhythmic whisper. They come. They come. I holstered my service weapon but kept my hand close. Years on the night shift taught me that silence can be the loudest warning. I clicked on my body cam. The red LED glowed steady. Subject sighted, I murmured to myself, crouching behind a pillar. Through the plastic tarp I glimpsed movement, a hunched figure rocking back and forth. The man was half naked, ribs visible beneath the stained skin, eyes reflecting my light with feral intensity. He pressed a filthy hand to his ear, as if listening to an impossible broadcast. "Sir?" I called gently, lifting my flashlight higher. My tone was calm, trained. "Newark, PD, you okay?" He froze, head snapping toward me. For a heartbeat, we just stared. Then he whispered, "They tell me to burn it all." His voice cracked like ice. I edged closer, careful not to startle him. "Show me. What's it?" I kept my voice low, almost conversational. Behind me, the distant rumble of a freight train vibrated through the concrete, punctuating the hush. He pointed to a smoldering barrel half buried in trash. The fire inside pulsed orange, casting jagged shadows on the pillars. Plastic bottles melted at the edges. I inhaled the acrid stink of burning PVC and something more organic, sweat, fear, desperation. "Okay," I said softly into my radio. "Haste to dispatch. One subject, possible psych crisis. Send EMS and backup." As I spoke, the man bolted, his momentum surprising for someone so gaunt. He sprinted past me into the deeper darkness. I gave chase, boots slipping on wet leaves and debris. The tunnel stretched ahead, a narrowing tube of gloom. His footprints, bare, red-rimmed, glowed faintly under my light. "Stop! Newark PD!" I shouted, but my voice swallowed by the tunnel. He skidded to a halt beside an overturned shopping cart filled with soggy blankets. The cart's wheels creaked as he leaned into it, panting. I approached carefully. "You don't have to run, we want to help." He laughed, a broken, hollow sound. "Help? They told me there is no help." His eyes darted sideways as if watching unseen shapes drift behind me. I spun around, flashlight sweeping. Nothing but concrete and drifting cigarette smoke. "Who's they?" I asked. He didn't answer. Instead, he lunged at me, fingers clawing for my jacket. Instinct kicked in. I sidestepped, grabbed his arm, and twisted him gently to the ground. My backup was still minutes out. It was just me and this trembling man in the black belly of the city. He struggled, but only weakly. The fight drained out of him as soon as he realized I wasn't his enemy. His body went limp, shoulders sagging. I cuffed him behind his back, standard procedure, even if he wasn't violent. He sagged against the concrete, head lolling. "Don't leave me here," he whispered. "You're not alone," I said, pressing the mic on my shoulder. "Hayes to dispatch. Suspect secured, need paramedics at Pine Street underpass." A siren wailed in the distance, back up close. The man shivered violently. I draped my nylon jacket over his shoulders. He clutched it like a lifeline. I scanned the scene. Amid the trash and graffiti, I spotted a crumpled photograph half buried in mud. A smiling family picnic at Branch Brook Park. A little girl holding a balloon. I pocketed it as evidence, but also as proof that this man had a life once, before the darkness claimed him. Patrol car headlights sliced through the tunnel entrance. Officer Ruiz and Officer Patel hopped out. Flashlights trained on us. They moved with practiced calm, securing the scene. The man's eyes followed them, filled with fear, but also relief. Paramedics arrived and assessed him for hypothermia and possible psychosis. I stayed back, watching the interplay of professional efficiency and human compassion. This was why I took the night shift, to be the light in places most folks never see. When they loaded him onto the stretcher, he turned to me. "Thank you," he croaked. I nodded. "You'll get help now." He was gone into the ambulance before I realized how much I needed reassurance, too. The tunnel fell silent again, save for the drip of water and the fading echo of footsteps. I picked up the photograph, dusted it off, and slipped it into an evidence bag. Back in my cruiser, I warmed my hands on the steering wheel. The scanner crackled. "All units clear." I exhaled hard, the tension leaking out. This was only the first act. 5 more hours on shift, 5 more calls that could turn deadly in a heartbeat. But right now, I let myself believe we'd made a difference tonight. Because in this city, under frozen street lamps and graffiti-stained pillars, sometimes all it takes is one patrol car, one voice saying, "You're safe." I'm Officer Marissa Hayes, Newark PD, reminding you that help can arrive in the darkest places. When dispatch screams through the static, we answer. And we stay until you're no longer alone. The distant rumble of the ambulance faded down Pine Street as I watched its red lights recede into the tunnel's black mouth. I eased back against the cruiser's door, heart still hammering, and replayed the scene in my head. The man's hollow eyes, that frantic chant. The feeble lunge for my jacket. Something about him, his terror, felt deeper than simple mental illness. As I shook off the shiver, I knew the night was far from over. I clicked the radio mic. "Hayes to dispatch. 10-8. Scene secure. Resuming patrol." The dispatcher's calm acknowledgement crackled back. I tore my gaze from the tunnel and swept the surrounding lots. Empty shopping carts clattered in the breeze. Dumpsters sat half open, and overhead, the elevated tracks glowed like silent sentinels. I slid into the driver's seat, started the engine, and set the heater to high. Steam coiled from the vents. My muscles ached from the scuffle. Nothing broken, but bruised. I rubbed my shoulder and tapped the dash cam. 2 hours into a 12-hour shift. 2 hours of adrenaline, and already my senses felt raw. The scanner spat out a new call. Unit 47. Possible trespassers at abandoned metro yard. Reports of flashlights inside. I sighed, flicked on the lights, and headed east toward the defunct Harrison station. The grid of Newark's street lamps blurred past. On nights like this, every vacant lot seemed pregnant with danger. The Harrison yard sat silent behind a cyclone fence topped with barbed wire. Rusted train cars lay on side tracks, their windows shattered, graffiti blossoming like toxic flowers. A single bulb over the old control shack flickered. I parked at the gate, stepped out, and approached on foot. Newark PD. Anyone inside, show yourself. My voice echoed off steel ribs. No answer. I radioed for backup. Officer Ruiz en route, and slipped through a gap in the fence. The chain rattled. My flashlight beam danced across corroded metal and oil-stained ballast stones. I moved toward the control shack. The door hung open. Inside, the air was thick with mold and the stink of urine. A broken spotlight lay on the floor, its lens cracked. I crouched, scanning the ground. Footprints in the dust. 2 sets, one adult, one smaller, as if a child had followed. My pulse quickened. Trespassers could be squatters or joyriders, but a child. A faint scuff behind me made me whirl. Nothing, just the sway of an empty cable spool. I forced myself to exhale. Go slow, Hayes. I flicked on the shack's emergency lantern. Its weak glow revealed scrawled words on the wall. They watch from below. My skin prickled. They watch from below. Under the elevated tracks, the darkness might hide anyone, or anything. I stepped out and swept the yard. A low moan drifted from the nearest rail car. I approached, heart in my throat. Inside the car, a tattered blanket lay on a makeshift bed of cardboard. A battered lunchbox sat on a cinder block. No people. I lifted the lunchbox. Inside, a child's drawing. Crayon stick figures under a bridge, one figure painted entirely black. I snapped a photo. The moan came again, this time closer. I spun toward the tracks. Under the rails, a figure scuttled, thin, hunched, darting between support beams. I called out, "Hey, Newark PD!" The shape froze, then vanished deeper into the undercroft. I crept after it, flashlight in one hand, taser in the other. The ground sloped down to a muddy trench where water pooled. The whispering wind sounded like voices. Children giggling, murmuring. I hesitated at the edge. "Back up," I whispered into my radio. Subject possibly juvenile in the trench. Proceeding with caution. No sooner had I spoken than I heard a soft sob. I followed the sound to a crawl space beneath the track bed. There, curled against a rusted beam, was a boy no older than 10. His clothes hung oversized, his face streaked with grime and tears. "Caden?" I crouched, voice gentle. He flinched, his eyes, wide, terrified, locked on mine. I'm scared," he whispered. "They won't let me out." "Who won't let you out?" I asked, scanning the shadows. He pointed down the trench. "Under here. They live under here. They come for me at night." His lip trembled. My hand went to my jacket pocket, where the family photo from the first scene lay folded. I pulled it out. "I found this near Pine Street. Is that your family?" He shook his head. "Different park." I offered my hand. "I'm Officer Hayes. You're safe now." He hesitated, then clutched my hand. His grip was ice cold. I radioed dispatch. "Unit 47 secure juvenile. EMS and child services to Harrison Yard." While I waited, I lifted him out of the trench. His legs trembled. Together we climbed back into the yard. My flashlight illuminated the overhead girders, rivets like watchful eyes. The boy kept glancing upward. "Why did you run?" I asked softly. He swallowed. "They told me to bring them someone new." My blood ran cold. "Who told you that?" He shook his head, voice dropping to a hiss. "The ones under the bridge. They know my name." My mind raced back to the chant. "They come, they come." That was the same voice pattern, the same terror. 2 different places, same haunting presence. I glanced at the dark line of the overpass visible beyond the yard fence. Under that concrete arch, something had whispered to a grown man to burn. Here, it whispered to a child to lure others. This wasn't random mental illness. this was something else. The rumble of Ruiz's cruiser grew louder. Headlights carved through the gloom. He jumped out, saw the boy, and offered cover. I eased Caden into my cruiser's back seat, wrapping him in a blanket. His small frame shook. "Everything's okay," I told him. He nodded, burying his face. The control shack lantern flickered off behind us, power dying in the abandoned yard. I felt its absence like a heartbeat gone still. Back on patrol, I drove slowly, Caden silent in the seat behind me. The city slept, unaware of what lurked beneath its bones. Every underpass, every derelict lot, felt charged with hidden eyes. I couldn't shake the sense that we'd only scratched the surface. At 4:15 a.m., dispatch sent a silent burglary alarm at a half-built condo site near Broad Street. I sighed. Hayes to dispatch, en route. The boy's whispered warnings echoed in my mind. They live under here. They know my name. What lived under here, and who were they? I flipped on the overheads and turned onto McCarter Highway, forging deeper into Newark's sleeping heart. As I rounded the bend, the skeletal towers of the condo site rose like tombstones. Floodlights circled the foundations, revealing steel rebar jutting from concrete pillars. No security guard in sight. The alarm panel blinked, motion detected in the lower garage level. I drew my weapon and entered the structure. The air was cold, damp, like the underpass. My flashlight beam danced across fresh footprints in the dust. Single file, like someone herding prey. "Caden," I whispered into the radio, "I need you to stay in the car." He tapped the window, eyes wide but silent. I nodded. I descended the ramp into the garage. The echo of my boots sounded deafening. In the beam, I saw them. Tiny handprints smeared on a concrete pillar at child height. I crouched, fresh, sticky, red. I swallowed hard. Then movement. A figure slipping behind a support column. I leveled my light. A child's silhouette, smaller than Caden, stood watching. I called out, "Child, come here. I won't hurt you." No answer. The figure tilted its head, as if studying me, then darted deeper into the shadows. I followed, heart hammering. The garage stretched on, pillars receding like rows of silent sentinels. The air grew colder. Suddenly, a soft giggle, high, manic, echoed from the far corner. I spun, the flash of white. A little girl's dress, stained gray, drifting through the gloom. She vanished behind a column. "Wait!" I advanced, every instinct screaming. I rounded the pillar and froze. There, scrawled in what looked like blood on the concrete wall, "Bring us more." My breath caught. The words pulsed in the flashlight's glare. Underneath, tiny footprints led toward the service elevator. I holstered my weapon and touched the wall, only to feel the stickiness of rust and old paint. No fresh blood. But the message remained undeniable. My radio crackled. "Officer down at Pine Street, non-responsive subject." A new call. My pulse surged. I keyed the mic. "Hayes en route back to Pine Street, possible code 187. I hesitated. Behind me, the garage elevator door creaked open. Darkness beyond. A cold draft carried a distant whisper. "They come. They come." I stepped back, heart in my throat. The elevator light flickered. The door inched wider. I raised my flashlight and saw only empty shaft descending into black. My radio crackled again. I answered, voice steady. "Copy that, I stopped. Because from the shaft came the sound of footsteps. Soft, childlike, but dozens of them echoing in the concrete well. I backed away, adrenaline spiking. The next call could wait. I sprinted up the ramp 2 at a time, burst into the night air, and dove into my cruiser. Caden looked up, eyes shining. "They're here," he whispered. I slammed the door, locked it, and hit the siren. The world blurred as I sped back toward Pine Street overpass. Behind me, the condo garage sat silent, the floodlights gleaming off empty pillars. But I knew it wouldn't stay empty, because once you glimpse what hides beneath the city's skin, it never truly lets you go. The cruiser's tires screamed against the wet asphalt as I tore back toward Pine Street, Caden's small frame huddled in the back seat. His whispered warning, "They're here," echoed in my mind, mingling with the memory of those tiny handprints in the condo garage. Every street lamp we passed painted jittery reflections on the puddles. Every shadow seemed to twitch with hidden life. My radio squawked, "Unit 47, backup on scene at Pine Street Underpass. Report?" I clicked the mic. "Hayes, I'm en route with a juvenile. Possible code 187, officer down, ETA 1 minute. I glanced in the rearview mirror. Caden's eyes were wide, fixed on the tunnel mouth. He pressed his forehead against the glass as if trying to see inside the darkness. We crossed the intersection. The underpass loomed ahead like a yawning mouth. Blue and red strobes painted the concrete pillars in alternating bursts of color. 2 squad cars, an ambulance, and a fire truck were lined up beneath the bridge. Officers Ruiz and Patel stood guard over the scene, their expressions grim. Paramedics clustered around a form on a gurney. I killed the engine and jumped out, rushing around the cruiser. Caden's door swung open before I could reach it. He slipped out silently and stood beside me, shivering in his thin jacket. I bent down. "Stay close," I murmured, touching his shoulder. He nodded, eyes darting to the darkness under the bridge. Ruiz turned as I approached. His face was pale. "Marisa, it's bad. You need to see." He led me past the yellow tape. Under the bridge, where I had cuffed the man earlier, lay Detective Alvarez, motionless, face down in a pool of his own blood. His partner, Officer Lynn, knelt beside him, tears streaking through the grime on his cheeks. My stomach dropped. Alvarez was part of the cover team, one of our most seasoned investigators. We'd radioed that initial officer down call just as I was leaving the condo garage, before I knew it was Alvarez. He'd been on foot, clearing the underpass when someone, had struck him from behind. No witnesses, no weapon found, just his service pistol lying 10 feet away, still holstered but empty. I swallowed hard, fighting nausea. "What happened?" I whispered. Lynn's voice cracked. He radioed one word. "They." Then nothing. He pointed to the far pillar. Splinters of concrete dust lay scattered at its base, as if something had slammed into it with tremendous force. A smear of blood arced across the graffiti. No footprints, no sign of struggle, except Alvarez's body and that dark, oily smear leading back into deeper shadow. My pulse thundered. "Secure the scene. I want forensics out here, light towers, everything." I turned to Ruiz. "Get Caden somewhere safe. Inside the ambulance. Stay with child services when they arrive." He nodded and gently guided the boy away, leaving me alone in the echoing cavern. I knelt beside Alvarez, checking for a pulse. Nothing. I closed my eyes, swallowing past the bile. I sat back on my heels. Alvarez was dead, under the same bridge where I'd rescued that man and heard the same whisper. "They come." I clicked on my body cam. "Officer down," I said into the microphone, voice steady despite the tremor in my limbs. Detective Alvarez pronounced dead at 0442 hours. Cause unknown, pending autopsy. Possible homicide, suspect description, non-human. I pressed a stop. Some things didn't belong on the record. Above me, the bridge's concrete ribs sagged into darkness. The distant wail of the ambulance siren faded as it departed with Caden. I felt the emptiness settle in my chest. I rose, brushing gravel from my knees, and trained my flashlight on the pillars. The oily smear led away from Alvarez's body, toward the deeper recesses of the underpass. I stepped over the yellow tape. Every step echoed like a drumbeat. I followed the smear, heart in my throat. The beam revealed nothing, just shadows and the dark stain on concrete. Then I saw it, a footprint, oversized, misshapen, with an extra toe-like protrusion. I knelt and examined it. The print pressed into the mud as if something heavy had paused there. I snapped a photo, crouching close enough to smell the acrid tang of something metallic, blood or something older. The print led under the next pillar where the whisper began, "They watch, they wait." My skin crawled. I tapped my radio. Hayes to dispatch, possible non-human prints under Pine Street overpass. Forensics advised. No reply. Everyone was scrambling to process Alvarez's death. I pocketed my phone and pressed forward. Under the second pillar, the air grew colder, unnaturally so. My breath fogged in the beam. The stench of decay rose from a pile of debris, broken crates, torn blankets, a child's shoe. I froze. The shoe matched the size of Cawdon's, but this one was caked in mud and bore the same tiny hand-drawn sun that Cawdon's sneaker had. My heart lurched. I crouched and lifted the shoe. The sun was crudely scratched into the leather. I closed my eyes, recalling Caden's drawing in the shopping cart lunchbox. Stick figures under a bridge with black faces. The parallel was undeniable. Someone, something, was collecting these children's artifacts. I heard a soft scuffling behind me. I swung my light around. Nothing. The tunnel yawned empty, but the echo. It sounded like whispering laughter, high-pitched, taunting. I stood and called out, voice firm. "Show yourself! Newark PD!" The beam wavered as I passed over a dark shape at the edge of the light. I froze. A child's silhouette crouched behind a barrel. I advanced. The shape darted away too fast. I chased it, adrenaline flaring. My boots splashed through a shallow puddle. The silhouette slipped between pillars, melting into shadow. I reached the spot. It was empty, only the sound of dripping water. But then I saw them, dozens of small footprints encircling a pillar like a crown. Each had that extra toe-like protrusion. The prints spiraled down the pillar, disappearing into a crack between two concrete slabs. I got on my hands and knees, peering into the crack. It was a seam, wide enough for a child's hand, too narrow for an adult. From within came a faint scratching, like fingertips raking stone. I pressed my ear to the concrete. The scratching stopped. Silence. Then a raspy voice, barely a whisper. "Why did you bring him back?" I staggered upright. "Who's there?" My voice shook. No answer. My flashlight flickered. I shook it, batteries full. The beam steadied, illuminating the seam. The crack was empty. My radio crackled. Forensics had arrived. I jogged back to the entrance. They swarmed in, setting up floodlights. As the underpass blossomed into harsh white light, the scratches in the seam looked fresh. Tiny grooves gouged into the concrete. I snapped evidence photos. Detective Marks arrived, tall and severe. He surveyed the scene, then eyed me. "Hayes, what did you find?" I swallowed. Footprints, a child's shoe, scratches in the pillar seam. "Something's living under here, Detective. It's been feeding off the lost. Men, children." His jaw tightened. He gestured to Alvarez's body being covered for transport. "We'll catalog everything, but Hayes, be careful, you're in deep." I nodded, forcing calm. But inside I felt a storm. The "they" that killed Alvarez, that whispered to Caden. Whatever lurked here was organized, intelligent, and hungry. That night, back at headquarters, I couldn't sleep. I pored over the body cam footage and photos. The smear under the second pillar glistened like oil. The footprints trailed off into darkness. The shoe's sun carving looked cheerful, childlike, yet grotesque in context. I thought of Caden sleeping in the juvenile ward, terrified but alive, and Alvarez gone. Two ends of the same horror. How many more victims? How long had this thing been here, unseen? At 0630 hours, I returned to the underpass with a forensics tech and a crime scene videographer. We lowered a borescope camera into the seam. The monitor crackled. Darkness, then movement. Tiny, pale fingers curled around the lens. The image shattered as the camera was yanked inside. I yelled, stepping back. The seam sealed itself, dust drifting down like ash. No camera, no evidence, only an empty crack. The videographer gasped. "It's gone." I shivered. They don't want to be seen. We searched for an hour. Nothing. No camera, no footprints, no scratch marks beyond what we'd already documented. It was as if the underpass had swallowed its secrets once more. Walking back to my cruiser, I passed the spot where Alvarez fell. The blood had been washed away by the night's rain, or by something else. The concrete was clean, save for the faintest outline of that oily smear, like a memory etched into stone. I touched the pillar, fingertips catching on a tiny chip. I pried it loose, a sliver of metal twisted into a crude talon, rusted, pitted, impossibly old. I dropped it into an evidence bag. Even if science couldn't explain it, I would prove to the world that this thing existed. As dawn threatened on the horizon, I climbed into the cruiser. The city stirred to life. Commuters, coffee shops, children waiting for school buses. They would never know what waited beneath their feet. I started the engine. My phone buzzed, a text from Lynn. "We buried Alvarez at 0800. I kept his badge. He'd want you to keep looking." I stared at the screen. I thought of that badge. Shiny metal against concrete. A promise of justice. I thought of Caden's drawing. The little sun beneath the bridge. And I knew I couldn't stop. Because whatever they were patient. They watched from below, gathering lost souls. And now, I was their only opponent, standing between them and the next victim. I drove off, headlights cutting through the early mist, mind racing. The city's pulse quickened around me. Somewhere, in the depths beneath Pine Street, something moved, hungry, waiting, planning its next move. And I would be back. I floored the accelerator, tires spitting gravel as I barreled toward the next scene. An empty warehouse on McWhorter Street where security cameras had picked up movement 2 hours ago. My head throbbed from exhaustion and adrenaline. I hadn't slept in 24 hours. But I couldn't stop now. Not after what happened to Alvarez. Not after what they did to Caden's innocence. I had to press on. The warehouse loomed like a tomb. Corrugated metal walls stained with rust. Broken windows gaping like dead eyes. A single security light flickered above the loading bay. I cut the engine, grabbed my flashlight and backup taser, and slipped out. The night air was thick with the smell of oil and rot. I checked my radio, silent. Everyone else was tied up at Pine Street processing that crime scene. This one was mine alone. I approached the loading bay door. It hung half open, warped on its hinges. I nudged it with my boot. It groaned, revealing a cavernous interior. Rows of empty pallets, puddles glinting under my beam. The air vibrating with distant dripping. The concrete floor was etched with tire tracks, recent. I crouched to inspect them. Large, lug-style tread, identical to the prints under Pine Street. My breath caught, the same non-human footprint. I clicked a photo and rose. "Newark PD," I called, voice echoing. No answer. I stepped inside. My flashlight swept across stacked crates labeled industrial supplies, overturned barrels, and, off to my left, a scattering of tiny shoes, child size, lined up neatly on a pallet as if arranged for display. My stomach turned. The shoes were different sizes, some infant, some youth, but each bore that same crudely carved sun motif. I swallowed hard and edged closer. The shoes lay in a perfect semicircle, pointing toward a dark corridor at the back of the warehouse. The beam trembled as I trained it there. The corridor entrance was draped with plastic tarps stained brown. Beyond, absolute black. A low hum vibrated through the floor, mechanical, rhythmic, like a million tiny voices chanting just beyond hearing. "Show yourself," I shouted, heart pounding. The hum stopped, silence, then a whisper. "You shouldn't be here." It came from all around me, though no one was visible. My flashlight flickered. I slapped it. Battery's fine. The silhouette of a small figure darted across the far wall. I lunged forward, but the figure vanished behind a stack of crates. I approached the crates. The floor was slick with something dark. Oil? Blood? I knelt and touched it. Sticky, warm. I sniffed. It reeked of iron, blood. I pressed a finger and wiped it on my sleeve. Bright red, fresh. I stood, drawing my taser. "If you're here, come out with your hands up." A soft scuffle echoed from the corridor. I stepped through the plastic flaps, flashlight and taser trained. The passage narrowed, lined with pipes and wiring. The hum resumed, louder. My boot struck something, a small backpack. I knelt, unzipped it. Inside, a child's teddy bear, its fur matted, one eye missing. Taped to its paw was a scrap of paper, a scribble in childish handwriting, reading, "Find us." My pulse surged. "Find us?" I murmured. "Who are you?" No answer, only the hum. I followed the pipes deeper. The concrete walls glistened with moisture. Water dripped into shallow pools. The air grew colder, my breath fogged. Then I saw movement. Dozens of pale shapes huddled in the gloom. Children's silhouettes, too many to count, swaying as if in a trance. My flashlight revealed their faces. Deadpan, black eyes reflecting the beam, skin chalky white. They wore rags, their feet were bare. Each clutched an object, a shoe, a drawing, a toy, tokens of lives stolen. They turned as one toward me, lips parting in silent moans. My legs locked. Then one child stepped forward, a little girl in a faded dress, blood-smudged sun on her shoe. She raised a hand and pointed at me. "You brought him back," she whispered. Her voice echoed unnaturally, as though layered with dozens of others. "Why?" I swallowed. I thought he needed help." My voice trembled. "They hurt him." Her head tilted. The other children pressed closer, forming a ring. The hum crescendoed into a cacophony of whispers. "Help us. Join us. Bring more." The air pulsed, as if alive. My taser felt useless. My radio crackled faintly, distant. I backed away, heart in my throat. "I'm calling this in," I gasped, fumbling for my radio. But the moment I reached for it, the children vanished, dissolving into the shadows like smoke. The corridor was empty. Only the drip of water and the echo of my ragged breathing remained. I stumbled out into the main bay. The shoes and teddy bear lay abandoned. The bloody smear on the floor led back toward the loading bay door. I followed it, each step sticky. At the threshold, I stopped. The smear ended in a perfect footprint. 3 toes, 1 extra protrusion, stamped in blood. I snapped photos, voice hollow. Then I noticed the overhead security camera. Its lens shattered, wires dangling. I traced the break. The break. The break. The glass was scored from the inside like someone clawed it out. I shivered. Whoever or whatever was here didn't want to be recorded. I retraced my steps to the cruiser, bagged the teddy bear and shoes as evidence, and wiped down the blood from my boots. My flashlight beam fell on the warehouse door. The plastic tarp at the corridor entrance fluttered in a breeze that shouldn't exist. I climbed in, heart pounding. I radioed dispatch. Hayes to dispatch, code 187 at McWhorter Warehouse. Multiple juvenile remains. Possible mass endangerment. Send SWAT, forensics, child services, clergy, everything. The operator's stunned pause was all the reply I needed. I started the engine. As I pulled away, I glanced back. The warehouse stood silent, its broken windows like hollow eyes. The shoes lay strewn on the pallet, the teddy bear's one eye glinting in the flicker of the security light. I swallowed hard. I had seen the children. I had heard their voices. Bring us more. The realization hit me like a physical blow. This place was a nexus, a nursery of nightmares feeding on lost souls. Pine Street Underpass was only one of many doorways. My phone buzzed, a text from Captain Monroe. Where are you? We need you at HQ. I tapped back. Just left McWhorter. Be there in 10. I exhaled. 10 minutes to formulate a report. 10 minutes before the world woke and wondered why SWAT was surrounding an empty warehouse. But I knew the truth. It wasn't empty. It never would be. The children's silhouettes would linger in the corners of my vision. The hum would echo in my dreams. And they would be watching. Always watching. For the next unsuspecting soul to wander into their domain. As the city lights blurred past, I tightened my grip on the wheel. I thought of Alvarez's badge, of Caden's tearful relief, of the girl's whispered accusation. I knew I was in too deep to turn back. The warehouse receded in my rearview mirror, its broken windows like dead eyes watching me go. I didn't dare stop until I reached precinct headquarters. The drive felt endless. Every stoplight a gauntlet, every shadow a threat. When I finally parked under the harsh fluorescence of the station garage, my hands shook so badly I almost dropped my flashlight. I hauled evidence, teddy bear, shoes, photos, into the forensics bullpen. Technicians buzzed around. Captain Monroe stood by the whiteboard, flanked by Detective Marks and the medical examiner, Dr. Liu. They'd already sketched a crude map of Newark with 3 hotspots: Pine Street Overpass, Harrison Rail Yard, McWhorter Warehouse. Red circles connected by arrows. Monroe's eyes were hard. Hayes' status, I swallowed. Their children's remains, or at least tokens, shoes, drawings, a teddy bear, and prints, non-human. We saw dozens of pale figures huddled in the corridor. Marks shook his head. You brought back a teddy bear, that's it? I pulled it from the bag. The bear's one glass eye caught the fluorescent glare. It was clutching this note. Find us. The shoes were arranged like an offering. Dr. Liu stepped forward. The scrapings on the warehouse floor are human blood. I ran preliminary tests. Mixed ages, multiple victims, none in the database. He tapped his tablet. If we don't find more remains soon, those kids will be lost forever. A heavy silence. Monroe cleared his throat. All right, we mobilize. A task force assembled. SWAT, K9, Forensics, Child Services, Clergy. I led them back to McWhorter Warehouse. Outside, floodlights carved the building in sterilizing white. SWAT trucks idled. Officers in tactical gear checked weapons. A drone buzzed overhead. Inside, the loading bay was cordoned off. I watched as technicians dusted for prints. Only the non-human footprints remained. They photographed and cast them. The pallet of shoes was bagged. The corridor tarps were cut away for inspection. Nothing behind them but cold concrete. Yet, when SWAT flooded the back halls with infrared, their cameras picked up heat signatures. dozens of faint moving blurs slipping between pipes. The team swept through with rifles and flashlights, but found only empty darkness. K-9 units tracked from the warehouse back toward the river, following scent trails that dissolved at the water's edge. I frowned. They're amphibious. One handler shrugged. The dogs wouldn't go near the bank. By 3 a.m., we'd canvassed every inch. No bodies, no children, no suspects. Just evidence. Toys, shoes, drawings, footprints, scratches in concrete. Monroe stared at the map. Whatever this is, it's smart. It lures us into empty spaces. I nodded. They want us in the dark. We split into 3 teams. I took the rail yard with Marks and 2 patrol units. The yard at Harrison, where Caden was found, felt different in daylight. The morning sun turned the rusted rails blood red. I replayed Caden's terrified face. As we moved through the cars, a patrolman called out, "Hayes, over here." He pointed to fresh graffiti on a car side, a child's scrawl, stick figures under a bridge, one shaded black. Beneath it, words, "More mouths." Marks photographed it. "They're taunting us." He spat. I knelt by the rail ties. Something glinted in the ballast. A small, carved bone whistle. I picked it up, smooth, aged, with tiny notches. I brought it to my lips and blew softly. The sound was a hollow keening note that echoed down the tracks. For a moment, nothing. Then the whistle skittered from my hand as 1,000 voices, children's voices, answered in a keening chorus. We all froze. The whistle lay on the ground, vibrating. I grabbed it. "We need to seal this evidence." Marks nodded, face pale. Back at precinct, I assembled the task force. Evidence lined the table. The bear, shoes, photos, bone whistle, camera talon. Dr. Liu had new findings. The talon metal was prehistoric, no modern alloy. The whistle bone came from a juvenile skeleton carbon dated centuries old. Monroe ran a hand through his hair. So, this entity has existed underground for who knows how long, collecting children. I swallowed. We've disturbed its lairs in 3 locations now. It's reactive. Detective Ruiz spoke up. "It kills or takes the ones we return. Alvarez is dead. We barely saved Caden. Next time?" I clenched my jaw. Next time, we hit them first. We planned a pre-dawn raid on a 4th site, the old cathedral crypt under St. Mary's, abandoned in the 1920s. Historical records mention children's burials and secret tunnels. It fit the pattern: underground, near population centers, forgotten. By 0900, SWAT teams in armored gear approached the crypt entrance, an unmarked door behind the church. I led the breach. The door gave way to stone steps spiraling down into damp darkness. The air smelled of mold and old incense. Lights on, flashlights, headlamps, tactical beams, we descended. The walls were carved with childish etchings. Sons, stick families, names half erased. Every so often, fresh scratches marred the ancient stone. At the bottom, a vaulted chamber opened. Rusted grills covered alcoves where coffins once lay, now empty. In the center, on a stone slab, lay a circle of shoes, infant size, surrounding a pile of yellowed bones. The whistlebone rested atop them. I felt bile rise. "They're feeding grounds," I whispered. Suddenly, the chamber lights flickered. The air pulsed with low humming. The bones rattled as if stirred by unseen hands. The shoes crawled, slid, toward us. Officers stumbled back, weapons raised. A shape emerged from the shadows. A pale child, maybe 8 years old, transparent as smoke. Eyes black voids. He lifted the whistlebone and placed it against his lips. The chamber filled with that keening note, unbearable in its sorrow and rage. Behind me, SWAT opened fire with non-lethal rounds. The figure dissolved into motes of dust. The humming stopped. Silence crashed. The shoes lay inert. I approached the stone slab. Beneath the bones, carved into the rock, was a message. Ancient language, but I recognized the shape. A bridge arch, a circle sun, a stick figure family, and words in English scratched deep. Return what you take. We emerged blinking into daylight. The crypt door sealed behind us as if it had never been opened. Monroe looked at me. What now? I held the bone whistle. We find every token, every child's item, and bring them here. Return them to their resting place. Marks scoffed. You want us to gather shoes from every underpass, every warehouse? I looked him in the eye. Yes, because if we don't, they'll keep taking lives, and we'll never stop hearing their voices. Monroe nodded slowly. Then let's start cataloging. Every evidence bag becomes an offering. We return these tokens to the crypt. By noon, a citywide collection was underway. Officers fanned out to known hotspots, tunnels, parks, abandoned buildings. Citizens were asked to turn in lost children's items. In the bullpen, evidence tags multiplied by the dozen. Every shoe, toy, drawing was logged, photographed, and prepped for transport to St. Mary's Crypt. I stood in the cathedral yard as a van backed up, piled high with evidence crates. A makeshift procession formed, clergy, social workers, detectives. I carried Caden's drawing, the stick family under the bridge, sun blacked out. We entered the crypt again, silent. One by one, we placed tokens in the alcoves. Shoes on ledges, teddy bears on slabs, drawings pinned to the walls. The chamber seemed to breathe, air stirring, as if relieved. When the last crate was empty, I placed the bone whistle in the center circle. A breeze swept through the chamber, though no door stood open. A soft glow pulsed around the tokens. The hush was profound. Then, a single child's giggle, happy, free, echoed once. The glow faded. I exhaled. The tokens lay still, but I felt their weight had lifted. The crypt was quiet, final. Back at the station, Monroe clapped me on the shoulder. You did it, Hayes. You gave them peace. I shook my head. We bought time. They'll reclaim new ground, new tokens. This isn't over. He nodded. So, we stay ready. Oh, task force becomes permanent. You lead it. I looked at the whiteboard. 3 hotspots now had lines leading back to St. Mary's. More arrows could be drawn. Agreed. That evening, I drove past Pine Street overpass. The concrete looked cleaner, almost peaceful in the golden hour. I paused, recalling the oily smear, the footprints, Alvarez's last word, they. I touched the steering wheel, heart tight. My radio crackled. Unit 47, call. Domestic disturbance at 5th and Orange. Possible shots fired. I flipped on the lights and siren. The city's pulse surged. Darkness gathers where tokens lie lost. But now I carried hope. A promise. We would return every lost piece, seal every gateway, stand guard in the shadows. Because I learned that night, monsters feed on what we discard. But we can starve them if we remember. I shifted gears, racing toward the next call. The bridge faded in my mirror. Behind its pillars, tiny lights winked. Children's eyes watching, waiting. I pressed forward into the coming night, ready. I step off the patrol car and into silence so thick it presses against my chest like water. The orange sodium lamps under the Elmwood overpass flicker, casting long, shivering shadows across piles of damp tarps and discarded shopping carts. My boots crunch on broken glass and soggy flyers advertising last month's church supper. The air smells of rot and old smoke, an acrid perfume that sticks in your throat. I check my radio, static. No crackle of dispatch, no comfort of a voice guiding me. Just my own breath, heavy in the chill night air. I tighten my grip on the flashlight and my service weapon. Standard procedure says call for backup, keep your distance, establish a perimeter. But procedure also says people's lives could be at stake. The 911 caller reported screams, like someone crying out for help, they said. The report came in 10 minutes ago. By now, whatever's out here might be cornered, scared, furious. I step forward, voice low and steady. Detroit PD, Officer Miller. Anyone here in need of assistance, make yourself known. A soft rustle answers from somewhere beneath the eastern span of the bridge. I sweep the beam across a tangle of blankets. A tent flap quivers. I approach slowly. Every instinct warns me. Darkness hides dangers. Still, I crouch and part the flap. Inside, a man huddles, knees to chest, face pale in the flashlight's glare. He looks 12 years older than his 25 years. Cheekbones sharp, eyes sunken. He trembles. "Sir, are you all right?" I ask. He doesn't answer, just murmurs, lips moving to words I can't catch. I reach in, lightly touch his shoulder. He startles, then fixes me with a gaze so hollow I feel a chill. "They're here," he whispers. "They watch from the dark." My flashlight beam flicks to the corner of the tent. Nothing but shadows. "Who's here?" I say. "Who's watching?" He shakes his head. No names, voices. His voice cracks. They talk in silence. Behind me, the barrel's ember flares, sending a curl of smoke skyward. I smell burning plastic. Someone torched a tire here recently. A train horn mourns in the distance. I radio dispatch. Unit 42. One subject located, scared out of his mind. I'm going in deeper. Need backup, lights, the works. Crackle. Finally. Copy. Unit 42. Backup en route. ETA 2 minutes. I sweep the area again. Footprints, bare footprints in mud, lead away from the tent toward the bridge's central pillar. To follow or wait? The man's fear is contagious. I offer him my hand. He grasps it like a lifeline, and I pull him out. He stumbles and vomits onto the damp concrete. I kneel, hold his hair back. "You're safe now," I tell him. He gags, then nods, face wet with bile and tears. "Not safe," he rasps. "Never safe." I glance up. The footprints stop at the pillar, but above them, graffiti. 3 letters scratched deep, H-E-L. The V and P are missing, as if clawed away. Help. The word glares at me. I run my glove along the scratch marks, fresh, still damp to the touch. My heart hammers. I stand and shine my light upward. Spiderweb cracks in the concrete, paint peeling. A dark stain seeps from a fissure. Old blood maybe, or oil. A faint whisper brushes my ear. "Miller, Miller." I spin, empty air. The homeless man scrambles back, pressing himself against the tent. "They called you," he says, voice hollow. "They told me to bring you." "Who told you?" I ask, voice firm. He shakes. Silent words. He covers his ears. Can't stop hearing. I glance at my watch. Backup should be here any second. But the radio goes silent again. The street lamps flicker out one by one, plunging us into darkness pierced only by my flashlight. The barrel's ember dies. The world narrows to the beam and the man's terrified face. Then, footsteps, metal on concrete, soft, deliberate, from the direction I hadn't shown the light. I swing the beam, nothing. Another step, closer. I call out, "Show yourself!" My voice echoes hollow. Footsteps stop. Heart in my throat, I step toward the sound, dragging the homeless man with me. He protests, but I shake him free. He backs away, terrified. I advance alone. The beam catches a figure crouched behind a wrecked shopping cart. Tall, gaunt, head bowed. I freeze, "Police!" I shout. The figure doesn't move. I step closer, heart pounding. The man, or whatever it is, straightens. Under the beam, I see his face. Pale, elongated, eyes too large, too black, mouth pulled into a grin that stretches impossibly wide. No eyelids, no hair, just smooth alien skin. I stagger back, hand on pistol. "Dispatch, suspect in sight, need immediate backup." My radio crackles, then silence. The figure steps forward, slow, deliberate. Each step echoes. I fire my flashlight and the beam trembles across that face. The grin widens. It tilts its head, regarding me with something like amusement. I lift the weapon. "Drop it," I say, voice trembling. "Drop your weapon." It stops, head cocked. In its hand, a length of rebar, rusted, jagged. It holds it like a gift. I swallow. Why are you here?" It doesn't answer. Instead, it raises the rebar overhead, preparing to strike. I fire. The shot cracks the night. The figure jerks, then dissolves into shadow in a soft, mocking laugh. I stare at the spot. Nothing. The rebar clatters to the ground. I pick it up, weight heavy in my hand. Blood? No, just rust. My flashlight beam skitters across the mud. No footprints leaving. The homeless man stands behind me, trembling. "It's gone," he whispers. I force a nod. "It's gone." I kneel, set the rebar by the tent. "Stay here, don't move." I back away, radio in hand, but the display reads no signal. I glance at the highway above. No cruisers coming. The world feels distant, unreal. I return to the tent. The man is gone. Only the blankets remain, rumpled. I shout his name. My voice cracks. No answer. My flashlight beam lands on the graffiti. Now it reads "Help, Bully." Fresh red letters dripping. I shiver. Suddenly the train horn sounds right beside me, deafening. I spin. A freight train roars past on the bridge above, its cars rattling. Through the gaps I see figures, dozens of them, standing on the rails, watching. Faces gaunt, eyes black. They vanish as the last car passes. The bridge is empty again. I back away, heart hammering. My mind races. A hallucination, mass hysteria, some new synthetic drug among the homeless. But the blood-red help stays on the pillar. The rebar lies at my feet. I pocket my radio, decide to retreat to the cruiser, call for backup on my cell. My phone lights up, one bar. I dial dispatch, ring. Finally, "Unit 42? Relief floods me. "Dispatch, I need static." Then a voice, not dispatch, but the homeless man's voice whispering, "You talk to me with no silent words." The line goes dead. I drop the phone. The night is silent again. I look back at the tent. The blankets twitch. I raise my weapon, flashlight beam locked on the movement. The flap rustles. I prepare to confront whatever emerges, but before I can move, a new whisper. "Miller," and the world goes black around me. I come to as the beam of my flashlight skitters across wet concrete and pools of dark liquid, rainwater mixed with who knows what. My head throbs where it struck the pavement. For a moment, I'm disoriented. The roar of the freight is gone. The barrel's embers cold. The graffiti's red help smeared as though someone scraped at it. I'm kneeling by the tent's mouth, hand pressed to my forehead. The rebar lies just out of reach, glittering with rust and something darker. I push myself up. The night air is thick, suffocating. My radio's still dead. My phone screen black. Backup should have arrived minutes ago. 2 minutes, dispatch said. But there's nothing but silence and the echo of my own ragged breath. I sweep my flashlight across the camp. The torn blankets, the collapsed chairs, the styrofoam cup spilled on a cinder block. Everything looks abandoned, as if whoever was here simply dissolved into the darkness. "Officer Miller," I whisper, testing the sound. My voice echoes hollow. I step toward the tent, boots slipping in sludge. The flap quivers. I grip my pistol in one hand, flashlight in the other, and pull the flap aside. Inside, nothing. No sign of the homeless man, no footprints leading away, only the damp imprint of where he'd knelt. The blankets tremble, though no breeze stirs. I step back, heart hammering. A soft humming starts, low, mechanical, like electricity through a broken transformer. I follow the sound to the bridge pillar. The concrete hums. I press my ear to it. Beneath the surface, I feel vibrations. Faint, rhythmic. A pulse, like a heartbeat. My flashlight flickers. The hum grows louder, turning into a low chant. Indecipherable words beneath the concrete. I stagger back, ear ringing. My training screams to retreat. Call for hazmat, call for backup. But curiosity, and something darker, drives me forward. I kneel and touch the pillar where the humming is strongest. The graffiti "help" glows faintly, as though the letters absorb the beam and radiate it back. The damp concrete seeps under my gloves. I press my palm flat. The chant resolves into words, "Go back, go back." I jerk my hand away. The hum cuts off. The world is silent again, my breathing loud in my ears. I glance at my watch, 00:45. 5 minutes since the first shot. 10 minutes since the 911 call. No other units. I radio dispatch again. Silence. Adrenaline surges. I decide to retrace my steps, to find the footprints that led here. I step back from the pillar and train the flashlight on the muddy ground. There, a faint track, as if someone in stockinged feet slid across the concrete. I kneel, brushing mud aside. The print is elongated, the toes splayed, not human. The arch pressed deeply, as though bearing weight on the ball of the foot. The heel dragged. I follow the track as it curves beneath the bridge toward the service road exit. My pulse pounds. Every horror story I've ever heard flashes in my mind. Yet I press on. The flashlight beam bobs as I hurry. The track leads past the burned barrel, past the shopping carts, out into the open where the overpass meets the service road. Then it stops. No continuation into the gravel. But the mud here is thin. I sweep the beam across the terrain. No sign of the man, no sign of the creature. Then I see something else. A handprint on the concrete wall at waist height. A drying smear of dark fluid. I crouch, examine it. Fingernails splayed, palm too large for the homeless man. The skin pattern blurred. Whoever, or whatever, pressed there left a stain that seeps downward like fresh blood. I draw a gloved finger across it. Sticky. I sniff. The coppery tang of iron. My sense of duty warps with fear. I lift my pistol, press the flashlight under the print. The wall around it is scrawled with symbols, circles and lines, half-erased words in English and something else. Latin? Number, gibberish that suggests language without meaning. The symbols pulse in the beam as if alive. Something shifts behind me. I whirl, weapon raised. The tent flap rustles. I train the light, empty, but the whisper returns. Miller? Soft, insistent. I spin again. The service road is empty, lit only by a single street lamp at its far end. Beneath that lamp stands a figure, slumped, as though carrying a heavy burden. I step forward. "Hey!" My voice cracks. The figure doesn't move. As I draw closer, I see it's the homeless man. Officer Hayes? No, the creature's victim. His clothes torn, face streaked with mud and tears. He stands motionless, head bowed. I approach slowly. "Sir, it's me, Officer Miller." He raises his head. His eyes, human eyes, mirror my own fear. But something else lurks behind them. Recognition, relief, terror. He points beyond me, into the darkness under the bridge. They're coming. His voice is flat. They want you. My heart seizes. I spin to face the tunnel mouth. Blackness yawns. The beam reaches 10 feet, 20, then nothing. I sweep left to right, no movement. Yet the arching concrete seems to pulse, as if the bridge itself inhales. The symbols on the wall behind me glow faintly red. I radio dispatch. Static. My phone? Dead. I glance down at the man. We need to get out of here. He nods. I hook an arm under his shoulder. We move back toward my cruiser, but the ground quakes beneath us. Subtle tremor, enough to throw me off balance. The cinder blocks beneath the tent rattle. The barrel tips, sending embers scattering. The street lamp overhead flickers violently. A roar shakes the night. A freight train? No, closer. A guttural growl, metallic and alive. The man screams and breaks free, stumbling back. I drop to one knee, weapon ready. The growl swells into a chorus of voices, anguished, angry, calling my name. The beam catches dozens of pale faces pressed against the bridge's support pillars. Homeless campers, their bodies gaunt, eyes black pits, mouths open in silent screams. They vanish in an instant, gone like smoke. The night is still. The man is on his knees, sobbing. I holster my weapon, kneel beside him. "It's okay," I whisper. "They're gone." He shakes his head. They're here. He points at me. "Inside you." I glance at my chest, where the chant seems to emanate from my radio pack. The symbols on the bridge burned into my mind. I feel a presence behind me. I rise, shining the light. A shape stands at the tunnel mouth, tall, thin, features indistinct. It tilts its head, then steps forward into the beam. It's the officer I thought I was, my reflection warped. Uniform soaked, badge twisted, face gaunt and hollow. The creature holds out its hand, my hand, long fingers curling. I stare, horrified. It smiles. In its palm lies a badge, my badge, bent, blackened. It whispers, "Your turn." I fire a shot. The beam cuts through smoke and shadow. The figure wavers, then dissolves into ash that drifts toward the river. The breeze carries it away. The tunnel mouth is empty again. Sirens wail in the distance, back up at last. The man sobs. I gather him in my arms. We stagger toward the service road. The street lamp stabilizes. The barrel's embers die. The graffiti help has reverted to plain concrete, as though never there. I guide the man into the cruiser. He glances back at the bridge, face pale. "They'll be back," he whispers. I nod, voice hollow. "Yeah, they always come back." The doors slam. I start the engine. The headlights illuminate the bridge one last time. In the beam, I swear I see movement. A flash of white, a pair of eyes, and then nothing. I pull away, tires spraying gravel. The overpass recedes in the rearview mirror. The night closes in. The whisper lingers in my mind. No silent words. I drive toward the station, lights pulsing on the dashboard. The man beside me is silent, crumpled in the seat. I radio dispatch. Unit 42 en route to station with one civilian. Request mental health evaluation and full debrief. My voice trembles. And send a camera crew. We need to document this. Dispatch crackles. Copy that. Unit 42, ETA 5 minutes. I kill the engine's roar in my mind. The road ahead is empty, but I know the darkness under that bridge has widened its reach. The city sleeps, unaware of what stirred in its underbelly. I glance at the man. His eyes are closed, but tears trace dark rivulets down his cheeks. I think of the pillar's hum, the blood-red symbols, the creature's grin. I think of my own reflection, hollowed, twisted. I realize the worst part isn't surviving the encounter, it's living with what I brought back. The cruiser's headlights catch a scrap of paper on the pavement, a page torn from a newspaper, smeared with mud. I step out and pick it up. The headline reads, "Missing, Officer James Hayes." Photo beneath the homeless man's face, dated 2 days ago. My breath catches. I look back at the overpass. The shadows seem to ripple. The bridge pulses, alive. The sirens grow louder. I fold the paper, heart slamming. The man in the passenger seat stirs, opens his eyes, my eyes. He smiles. "Thanks for the ride, Officer Miller." I step back, hand on my weapon. The city night stretches out, indifferent. The bridge stands silent, waiting. And I realize they never needed silent words. They just needed someone to listen. I press my back against the cruiser's door, panting. Heart slamming so hard I can feel it in my throat. The passenger side door swings open, and I half drag, half guide the trembling man inside. His eyes, my eyes, are wide with terror, and he presses a shaking hand to his mouth as though to hold back screams. I slam the door, jab the lock, then slip behind the wheel. The engine turns over on the first try, headlights stabbing the darkness, illuminating the broken concrete and twisted rebar of the overpass one last time. But even as I pull into gear, I know we haven't escaped. The air in the cruiser is stale, tinged with the metallic scent of fear. The rebar lies on the floorboard behind the passenger seat, an inert object that somehow still thrums with menace. I glance in the rearview mirror. The man's reflection flickers, as though the glass itself is shuddering. For a moment, I think I see shadowy figures standing in the back seat, crowding the corners, but when I blink, they're gone. I drive, slowly, deliberately, back toward the precinct. The service road narrows into city streets, shuttered storefronts, chain-link fences, the occasional flicker of a neon sign in a 24-hour deli. I radio dispatch again. Unit 42 en route. Civilian with me, possible mental health crisis. Need medical and departmental escort. The reply crackles. Copy that, Unit 42. Be advised, beat cars in the area responding to an unrelated domestic. ETA 5 minutes. 5 minutes. 5 minutes for the darkness under that bridge to slither into the rest of the city. I exit onto Main Street, the yellow lines bright beneath the street lamps. The man in the passenger seat hasn't spoken since we left. He stares at the rebar as though it's a living thing. I pull up outside the precinct's front doors. Heavy glass with a single buzz-in camera. I kill the engine. We sit in silence. The rebar skitters as the car settles. My hands are slick on the steering wheel. Finally, I say, "We're safe now. You'll get help." He nods slowly, eyes fixed on the dashboard. "They followed," he whispers. "Even here." I slide the door open. Cold night air rushes in. I step out, move to the passenger door, open it. The man climbs out, but instead of heading for the bright lobby, he pauses and looks back at the cruiser. "They're in there," he says. I follow his gaze. Through the tinted rear window, I see nothing. The back seat is empty. The rebar lies alone. I exhale, unnerved. "Let's get you inside." I guide him toward the entrance. The strobe of the security camera reflects off my badge. Inside, fluorescent lights hum. A desk sergeant looks up, startled. "Unit 42, what do you got?" I nod to the man. "Found him under Elmwood Overpass. Possible psych crisis. He's claiming things." I don't finish the sentence. The sergeant's eyes flick to the rebar I'm holding like a club. "Bring him in," the sergeant says. "Medical team's on call." He taps a button and the doors buzz open. We step into the sterile foyer. The man flinches at the brightness. I lead him to the small holding room. Couch, table, bolted to the floor, camera in the corner. A nurse arrives with a clipboard. A uniformed officer brings coffee. Within minutes, the man is sitting, wrapped in a blanket. The nurse kneels, checks his vitals. He shivers. I step back. The sergeant pulls me aside. "What the hell were you doing out there alone?" he asks quietly. I glance at the man, who stares blankly at the wall. "Dispatch said 2-minute ETA," I say. "I couldn't wait. Something was wrong." The sergeant frowns. "You discharged your partner?" I swallow. I didn't have time. No signal. I thought..." My voice trails off. He shakes his head. "Write it up. Internal review. You nearly got yourself killed." I nod, but my mind is back under the bridge. The pulse in the concrete. The whispering voices. The way the man's eyes had changed. The nurse stands, says, "He's stable. He'll need psych evaluation." The man nods dully. I watch as they lead him away. His reflection in the glass door flickers, then vanishes. I sit in the empty briefing room. Fluorescent glare overhead. Paperwork spread across the table. The incident report, my statements, sketches of the graffiti symbols, photos of the blood-red help. I've written unknown subject under suspect. I've described the creature as unidentified humanoid. Every line feels inadequate. How do you classify the impossible? My phone buzzes. A text from dispatch. Audio log from your radio. Lots of static, some voice. Unintelligible. I open the attached file. I press play. First, my voice. "Unit 42 to dispatch. Suspect in sight. Need immediate backup." Then static. Then a second voice. Low, garbled, overlapping my call. "You talk to me with no silent words." Then more static. Then the faintest echo of laughter, childlike, mocking. I sit back, stunned. I replay it. The laughter emerges again, rhythmic, almost musical. I pause. I adjust the volume, the words beneath the static. Miller, Miller. My skin prickles. I shut off the file. My partner, Officer Diaz, steps in. "Heard you were busy last night," she says, dropping a coffee beside me. "Sergeant's pissed, but he sent me to check on you." I manage a smile. "Thanks." She sips her coffee, eyes the paperwork. "What happened?" I close the file. "Something I can't explain." She leans back. "You look like hell. Go home, rest." I shake my head. "Not yet." She raises an eyebrow. "You want to see something weird?" The temp file on the precinct server, cameras under Elmwood Overpass, footage got overwritten. But someone grabbed a still, a blurred shape behind the tent. Nobody claimed it. IT thinks it's a glitch. Diaz stares. "You saw that?" I nod. "It wasn't a glitch." She's quiet. Then, "Want backup? Department shrink? Hell, I'll go with you." I stare at her. Number not yet. She nods like she understands more than I said. "Be careful, Miller." She leaves. I'm alone with the hum of the ventilation. The clock ticks. I glance at the report. Time of incident 00:45. Next shift starts at 0600. I have hours to fill. I close the file and stand. I need air. Outside, dawn is a pale promise. I drive back to the overpass. Not on duty, no lights, engine off. I park 50 yards away. The place looks innocuous in the early light. Concrete pillars, a few stained tarps, litter scattered. I step out, unarmed, carrying only my flashlight and a small camera. I want to see it clearly, document it, prove it to myself before my mind unravels. I approach the pillar where help had been. Now it's gone. Clean concrete. I run my hand over the surface. Smooth, cold, no scratch marks. I kneel, shine the light on the ground. No footprints, just gravel and muck. The barrel is empty, the tent is collapsed, soggy, no rebar. I walk the perimeter. Nothing. No sign of blood, no symbol, no whisper. A jogger passes on the service road overhead, glances down, frowns. I nod. He ducks under the bridge. First turn. A gust of wind rattles a tarp. For an instant, I think I see movement in the shadows, something slipping between pillars. I step forward. "Show yourself," I say softly. Silence. I lean into the shadows. My flashlight beam illuminates broken bottles, a torn sneaker, a stray glove. I pick up the glove, clothing from last night. I bag it, then I spot a dark stain on the pillar's base. I kneel, touch it. Sticky. Fresh? No, it's old oil. I flick at it. It flakes away. My heart sinks. Had it all been hallucination? A psychotic break? The sergeant's words echo. You nearly got yourself killed. I stand, dust off my pants. I need to leave. As I turn, something glints at my feet. A scrap of paper, mud-caked. I pick it up. A torn page from a children's book. An illustration of a bridge, bright crayons, the words, "Shh, listen." My breath catches. I turn the page. On the reverse, scrawled in neat, childlike letters, "They never left." Under that, in the same hand but different ink, "Find me." I look up. The bridge looms. The shadows shift. I feel them watching. I tuck the paper into my pocket. I walk back to the cruiser, mind racing. The city awakes around me. Horns, footsteps, distant voices. Life goes on. But under Elmwood Overpass, something waits. That afternoon, I sit in my apartment. Yellow tape and photos spread across the coffee table. The page from the children's book lies under a paperweight. I've printed stills from the security camera, a blur behind the tent, a smear on the pillar's base. I circle the shapes, annotate. My phone buzzes, a message from Diaz. Precinct's got calls. More screaming under the bridge. I stare. I reply, "I'm on my way." I grab my gear, flashlight, camera, MRE bar, water. I lock the door, slide the bolt. I climb into the cruiser. As I start the engine, I glance at the rearview mirror. For a heartbeat, I see a pale face in the back seat, little girl, dark eyes, smiling. Then it's gone. I drive into the gathering dusk. The overpass looms ahead, bathed in orange light. Birinci Park, no sirens, no uniforms. The lot is empty. I step out. The air is colder now. I hear a child's laughter, distant, echoing. I grip my flashlight. I step under the bridge. The moment I step fully beneath the overpass, the air constricts, an almost physical pressure that squeezes the breath from my lungs. The orange glow from the street lamps outside fades behind me, swallowed by shadow. My flashlight beam cuts a narrow tunnel of clarity through the blackness, illuminating grit-specked concrete, tangled wires, and the occasional scrap of litter. A cracked smartphone screen, a bottle cap, a child's toy car missing a wheel. Each object seems freighted with meaning now, as if part of some larger puzzle I have yet to piece together. I pause at the spot where the rebar lay the night before. Now it is gone, disappeared as though it never existed. My boot nudges the mud. It ripples and settles. I shine the light upward. The pillar is smooth, unmarked. My pulse throbs. The whisper of wind, or is it voices, lingers at the edges of hearing. I swallow and press forward, hugging the beam tight to the ground, searching for footprints. There are none. Halfway through the span, the underpass opens into a wider chamber where the concrete columns recede into darkness. Here, the echoes multiply. Each footstep spawns a dozen ghost steps that fade slowly. I keep moving, senses straining. The beam picks out a series of symbols on the far wall, familiar now. Circles intersected by slashes. The half-erased word "help" scrawled again, this time in chalky white. Beneath it, new letters. Find her. My heart lurches. Find her. The children's book page in my pocket. Find me. This place is speaking in clues. A chill coils in my gut. I raise the flashlight to reveal more of the wall. Smudged handprints, finger-drawn arrows pointing deeper into shadow. I follow the arrows, each step echoing like a drumbeat. The psychological pressure mounts. The darkness seems alive, breathing, watching. Then the beam catches movement. A flash at the corner of my vision. I swing the light. Nothing, but I hear it. A soft scuff, like shoes sliding across concrete. I whirl, training the light across the pillars. At the far end, I see her. A little girl in a faded dress, back turned, standing alone where no path leads. She doesn't move. She just tilts her head as though listening. My blood freezes. "Hey, are you okay?" My voice quavers. The girl doesn't answer. The beam trembles as I approach. Every instinct screams to turn back, call for backup, run. But I'm drawn forward. The chamber floor slopes down into deeper dark. She stands at the lip of the slope. I step closer. The air grows colder, the darkness denser. Suddenly, the girl turns. Her face is hidden by shadow, but I see her lips curl into a smile that doesn't reach her eyes. She raises one pale hand and points behind me. "Miller." Her voice is distant, warped, like a recording played too slow. They wait. I whirl around. The pillars behind me have shifted. The spacing is wrong. The exit I came through is gone, replaced by an unbroken wall of concrete. Panic seizes me. I turn back to the girl. She's closer now, maybe 10 feet away. She raises both arms and the air distorts, rippling like heat haze. The beam wavers. I blink, and she's gone. A new whisper rises, suffocating in its intensity. "Miller." No silent words. "Find her." The pillars pulse with an unsteady glow, the symbols bleeding red. The floor vibrates underfoot. I grip my flashlight like a lifeline and force myself to move, to climb down the slope into the yawning black. My boots hit damp earth. The beam reveals a narrow trench carved along the center of the chamber, filled with murky water. The echoes here are louder, childlike giggles, distant sobs, urgent shushing. I follow the trench, water sloshing around my ankles. The beam catches something floating. The torn page from the children's book, soaked, its crayon's colors blurred. I fish it out. On the page, a new message scrawled in jagged letters, "Come find me." Adrenaline surges. I press on, trench leading into a narrower corridor where the walls close in. The water deepens to mid-shin. The temperature drops. I can see my breath. The whispering grows louder, overlapping voices, pleading, angry, mocking. I blink and almost fire my weapon. There, pressed against the wall, a handprint in glowing phosphorescence. I touch it, cold, sticky. The print yields under my glove, leaving a smear on my finger. The smell, iron and rot. Further on, the corridor slopes upward. I climb, heart hammering, until I emerge into a vaulted chamber lit by a shaft of pale light filtering through a grate far overhead. The beam of my flashlight dances across broken playground equipment. A swing set frozen, chains rusted. A slide coated in grime. A merry-go-round half submerged in water. This, an abandoned children's play area beneath the highway. The betrayal of innocence is suffocating. In the center of the chamber stands a single figure. The homeless man. No, Hayes. His face is streaked with tears. He cradles something in his arms, a small bundle wrapped in a filthy blanket. He looks up, eyes hollow. "You found me," he whispers. I step forward. "Where? Where is she?" My voice echoes. He rocks the bundle gently. "She's here," he says. He unwraps it. My breath catches. Inside is the little girl, alive, eyes closed, breathing shallow. She looks dead, pale as moonlight. My pistol drops from my hand. I rush forward. "Officer Hayes, get help!" He steps back, holding her like a shield. "They said to give her to you." His voice trembles. "They said you'd know what to do." A roar behind me, I spin. From the darkness around the playground, shapes emerge. Figures gaunt and hollow, faces twisted in silent screams. They crowd the edges of the chamber. Homeless campers, children's phantoms, something else, something alien. They press forward, hands reaching. The air vibrates with their whispers. "Find her." "No." Silent words. "Miller." I stare at Hayes. "We need to go, now." He shakes his head. "They won't let us." The figures close in, their breath clouds in the air. I feel their hunger, their desperation. My mind screams, "Shoot, run, save her." I step forward, hand outstretched. Hayes tightens his grip on the bundle. He steps backward, into the water. The surface ripples. Behind him, the merry-go-round begins to turn, slowly at first, then faster, though no wind stirs. The swings creak. The slide gleams. The phantoms press nearer. The little girl stirs, opens her eyes, coal black, reflecting the flashlight's glare. I lunge, grab Hayes's arm. "Come on!" He doesn't move. The water rises around his boots. The phantoms swirl, a vortex of hunger and sorrow. The girl's laugh rings out. Innocent, terrible. I look into her eyes and see the bridge pillars, the graffiti, the tent, the overpass, and beyond, the city sleeping, oblivious. Hayes's lips move. "They said, you belong to the bridge." The water reaches his knees. He looks at me, my reflection wavering in the muddy water, then at the girl. "She's the key." He holds her out. "Take her." I hesitate. My training, my duty, my instinct to protect every life. I step forward. The phantoms extend pale hands. The water swirls, rising to mid-thigh. The girl's smile widens. I reach for the bundle, then realize she isn't a child. Her form shifts. Limbs elongate. Features sharpen into something eldritch. The blanket falls away. The little girl becomes the creature I shot under the bridge. Pale skin, endless grin, black eyes, and in its arms, another figure. Me, curled in fetal pose, eyes wide. My mind shatters. I back away, stumbling. The creature's laugh echoes through the chamber. It speaks in my voice. "You found me." It holds up the bundle, my own broken body. "Now find her." Then it tilts its head. "Find yourself." The phantoms surge. I spin, race back down the corridor, water sloshing, trench narrowing, whispers screaming. I burst into the overpass chamber, flashing light, concrete pillars. The exit gapes ahead. I dash, heart in my throat, the phantoms on my heels. I leap through the exit into the night air, emerge beneath the bridge. The world is still. The sirens wail in the distance. My chest heaves. My flashlight flickers. I'm alone. No sign of Hayes, no girl, no phantoms. Only the barrel, the broken cart, the graffiti pillars silent. The city night breathes around me. Distant horns, occasional footsteps, the river's hush. I stand in the street, drenched, heart racing. The beams of arriving cruisers slice through the gloom. Officers jump out, flashlights trained on me. "Officer Miller," they shout. "Are you okay?" I look down at my hands, wet, trembling. My service weapon lies in the mud where I dropped it. I pick it up, holster it. I step toward the closest officer. "We found her," I say. "I found her." My voice echoes. I raise my hand toward the bridge. She's up there, or down there, or everywhere. They shine lights at the overpass. They see nothing unusual. No bodies, no footprints, no symbols. Just concrete and shadow. One officer says, "You look like hell. Let's get you back." I nod and climb into the cruiser. As the door closes, I glance back at the bridge. In the beam of my flashlight, still lying in the mud, the graffiti pillars glow faintly. I see, scrawled in fresh red paint, Miller, Miller, find her. The cruiser pulls away. The overpass recedes in the rearview mirror. The night swallows it. My phone buzzes. A text from dispatch. You're late for roll call. I check the time. 2:17. I was gone 12 minutes. The world moved on. I stare at the rearview mirror. My reflection. Eyes hollow, uniform soaked, badge crooked. Behind me in the back seat, the silhouette of a little girl sits perfectly still. I catch her eye in the mirror. She smiles, and the whisper comes soft and clear. No silent words. I step out of the cruiser into a world that seems unchanged. Damp pavement, distant sirens, the hulking concrete of the Elmwood overpass looming overhead. But I know it's different. The air still vibrates with whispers I can't silence. My boots splash through shallow puddles. The city's ambient glow feels alien, as though I've returned from another realm. Behind me, officers secure the scene. Their flashlights slice through the gloom, revealing nothing but litter and jagged shadows. I let them handle the perimeter. My place is under the bridge. I walk alone toward the span's eastern pillar, heart hammering. Every instinct screams that I shouldn't go back, but I have to. The little girl's smile, the creature's mocking voice, the image of my own broken body cradled in its arms. Those visions won't leave me until I understand them. I need to finish what I started. The trench I crawled through, the flooded corridor, the phantom playground, they were real. They exist beneath this city, hidden from normal sight. And I have to know why. As I near the pillar, I see fresh footprints in the mud, small feet, toes splayed, dragging heels. They lead into the darkness under the span. I kneel, trace the prints with a gloved finger. The mud yields easily, too easily. It's as though something expected me, prepared the path. I stand and steel myself, pushing the flashlight beam into the tunnel mouth. The whisper rises, faint but insistent. Find yourself. I step into the black. Instantly, the atmosphere shifts. Cooler, heavier. The beam pierces only a few feet before vanishing into opaque gloom. I advance, water seeping over my ankles, then calves. The trench appears, cutting a muddy channel toward the heart of the underpass. I follow it. The whisper grows into a chorus, overlapping voices chanting, "Miller! Miller, find her! Find you!" At the end of the trench, I climb once more into the vaulted chamber of abandoned play equipment. The pale shaft of light overhead is gone. The grate is sealed. Only my flashlight illuminates the rusted swing set, the half-sunken merry-go-round. In the center, the little girl stands, pale dress glowing. In her hand, my badge, twisted and blackened. Her coal-black eyes reflect the beam, voids that draw me in. She cradles something at her feet, a shattered mirror. I approach slowly, every footstep amplified in the silence. The water ripples outward. The girl raises her head. "You came back," she whispers. Her voice is my voice, warped, distant. She gestures at the mirror shards. I look down. The largest shard shows not my reflection but a memory. Me as a child, standing under a highway overpass, lost, crying. My mother's voice calling, but no one coming. The other shards flicker with scenes. Me graduating academy, me pulling the homeless man from the tent, me firing my weapon, me watching the creature dissolve. Each shard a fragment of my life, seen from outside. I kneel, pick up a shard. My fingertip presses the broken edge. Pain blossoms. I don't feel it. In the mirror, my eye meets my eye, only the reflection smiles. Then the shard cracks further, splitting the image. One half shows me alive. The other half shows my body crumpled, lifeless under the bridge. The little girl steps forward and presses her hand against the shard. The image ripples. The shard melts into water, vanishing in my palm. I look up. The girl is gone. In her place stands the creature, tall, elongated, grin impossibly wide. Around it, phantoms press close, their black eyes flashing. The creature holds out its hand, the rebar, now glowing with inner light. "Take it," it says in my voice. "Finish it." My mind reels. The rebar is my weapon, my burden. I realize the creature wants me to strike, to kill. But there is no one left to kill, only me. A voice behind me, the whisper of my own doubt. I lift the rebar, feel its weight, every life I've taken, every choice, every silent word unspoken. The phantom's whispers crescendo. "End it, or be ended." I close my eyes. The echoes of that first 911 call, the homeless man's fear, the flash of my pistol, the hollow victory of the shot, all rush back. The child's laughter, the train horn, the barrel's ember, the red help, "Find her, find you." I open my eyes. The creature advances, offering the rebar like a twisted gift. I raise the rebar above my head, not to strike outward, but to bring it down on my own shoulder, sever the bond. I bring the rebar down. The impact reverberates through bone and metal. Pain sears. I collapse, cradling my arm. The phantoms recoil, shrieking. The creature's grin falters, water splashes, the chamber quakes. I writhe, pressing my palm into the wound. Blood wells hot, but the pain grounds me. The whispers falter, then hush. The creature staggers, its form flickering like a broken projection. It raises a hand in farewell. "Thank you," it whispers, my voice, but softer, distant. Then it dissolves, melting into droplets that vanish into the puddles. Silence. The little girl appears at the chamber's entrance, face solemn. She holds out my badge, restored, gleaming. I take it, blood dripping onto concrete. She nods once, then steps back into shadow. The grate above clangs open. Pale morning light filters in. I crawl toward the exit, each movement agony. The water drains. The trench is gone. The play equipment rusts in stillness. The tunnel behind me seals itself, concrete shifting, erasing the path. I emerge under the overpass into dawn. Officers swarm with medical and investigative teams. They stare as I crawl out, badge in hand, arm bound. I look at the little girl, but she's gone. A sergeant rushes over. "Miller, are you alive?" I nod, voice gone. They help me up. Medics lead me toward an ambulance. I look back at the pillars. The graffiti is gone, only bare concrete. No help, no symbols, no sign anything happened. In the ambulance, they wrap my shoulder. I grip the badge. It feels real. The world outside is waking, traffic, pedestrians, the hum of the city. I close my eyes. The whisper returns. Soft, almost comforting. No silent words. I open my eyes. The EMTs look at me expectant. I manage a nod. They ask questions. I answer with clipped words. My mind drifts to the tunnel, to the mirror shards, to the little girl's smile. I think of Officer Hayes. Where is he now? Alive, I hope. Free. The phantom's gone. The creature banished, at least for now. They load me into the ER. As they wheel me inside, I glance back through the ambulance windows at the overpass. In the pale light, I swear I see a small figure watching. Coal black eyes, faded dress. She raises a hand in farewell. Then she's gone. They patch me up. The internal affairs investigator arrives, questions, notes. I give my statement. Unknown assailant, mental crisis, self-inflicted wound. They nod, file it away. A chaplain offers words. I thank him quietly. I'm alone in a hospital bed, shoulder throbbing, adrenaline ebbing. The city moves on outside, unaware of the other world beneath its roads. I close my eyes. The whisper lingers. Find her, find you. No silent words. I know this isn't over. The path beneath the bridge is sealed, for now. But darkness shifts. Tunnels open where you least expect. The little girl's laughter echoes in my mind. The badge on my chest feels heavier than ever. I was their executioner and their salvation. I chose to wound myself rather than others. But the cost is only beginning. A nurse enters. Time for discharge, she says. I sit up, swing my legs over the bed. The pain flares. I grit my teeth. She smiles sympathetically. I stand, collect my things. She glances at the badge pinned to my jacket. Rough night, officer. I manage a small smile. You could say that. I step into the hallway. Fluorescent lights hum. I head for the exit. The city sun blinds me. I shield my eyes. When they clear, I see the world as it is, and as it isn't. The overpass in the distance beckons. I rub my shoulder. My phone buzzes. A text from Diaz. You in one piece? Coffee? I type back. Yeah, meet me at Lou's in an hour. I need to talk. I walk out onto the sidewalk. The traffic roars. People hurry, oblivious. I look up at the bridge. No symbols, no figures, just concrete and steel. But I know what lies beneath. The chamber, the playground, the tunnel, the whispers. I know the little girl waits for me to return. When the city sleeps, when the silent words grow loud again. I slip my hand into my jacket pocket. The badge is there, and beneath it, the torn page from the children's book, now dry, the words still legible. They never left. I step off the patrol car and into that hollow silence beneath the overpass. The world narrowed to the beam of my flashlight and the soft hum of the city just beyond. The guardrail rattles as I close the door, and I feel the weight of the night shift settle into my bones. 6 years on Lindenwood streets, and nothing quite like this. The call came in 20 minutes ago. Under the Eastbrook Bridge, someone screaming. Dispatch had patched me through without details. Screams aren't rare, but something about that location always makes the hairs on the back of your neck stand on end. Concrete pillars rise like silent sentinels, their surfaces scarred by layers of graffiti, names, dates, angry symbols, half-legible warnings. A single sodium lamp overhead flickers, struggling against the darkness. Beneath it lies a patchwork of tents, tarps, and shopping carts filled with belongings, an impromptu community of the forgotten. Damp newspapers swirl at my feet, plastered with headlines about missing persons and cold cases. The smell of mildew and burnt rubber hangs in the air. I call soft into my radio. Bell on scene. I'm moving in. No answer yet. Backup is still a few minutes out. I keep the engine idling. Light enough to see, quiet enough not to spook whoever's out here. I draw my sidearm and click on my flashlight, the beam cutting a narrow swath through shadow. Every footstep echoes. A low moan drifts from the largest tent, its entrance tied shut. The sound is human, ragged, fear, pain, desperation all wrapped into one. I edge closer. Police, you okay in there? No response, only that soft moan. I drop to one knee, shining the light under the flap. The canvas shifts. I hear a whisper. Help! My heart hammers. I zip the tent flap and sweep inside. The light reveals a thin man curled in on himself, coat threadbare, eyes rimmed red. He stares up at me, voice cracking. They come at night. I can't sleep. Who comes? I ask, lowering my voice. He points past me into the deeper dark. I turn. Nothing but shadow. When I look back, he's gone. The tent is empty except for damp blankets and that single flickering candle, its flame guttering in a draft. I step back out, scanning the pillars. Something shifts at the corner of my light. A silhouette. slipping between supports. Too tall, too still. I call out, "Hey, show yourself." My voice sounds brash in the hush. No answer. Footsteps crunching gravel behind me. I whirl, but again, there's nothing. My radio crackles. Unit 2, 10 minutes out. I exhale. Copy that. I move toward the next tent, careful where I step. Rusted cans, soggy cardboard, a child's toy half buried in mud. I pause at a cluster of newspapers plastered with missing person photos. One headline: Local transient vanishes near Eastbrook Underpass. The date: 2 weeks ago. I kneel and pick up a damp page. The photo shows a man whose gaunt face could have been the one I just spoke to. The caption: no leads. A whisper brushes my ear. Don't look. The hair on my neck prickles. I swing the light around. Nothing. I shake off the chill, probably just the wind. I round the last pillar and find a single tent zipped tight. From inside comes frantic scratching. "Help me," a woman's voice shrieks. I draw in a breath and unclip my radio. Bell to dispatch. Possible victim inside tent 3. Request medical. Then I press to the canvas. "Police! Open up." Silence. Then the tent shutters. I grip my gun tighter. The zipper jerks. A young woman bursts out, pale, eyes wide, tears streaking grime on her cheeks. "He's here," she gasps, pointing into the darkness beneath the bridge. He watches, whispers. I crouch beside her. "You're safe now." "Who watches?" Her shoulders shake. "I don't know. I hear him." She presses a trembling hand to her ear. I notice a thin trickle of blood on her palm. "You're hurt. Come on." I guide her away. She looks back, voice barely audible. "Find him." My light flickers. I scan the black tunnel mouth. My chest tightens. Something about that void, like it's alive, waiting. I radio again. "Bell, tent 3 clear, 1 female down, minor laceration. Send EMS, I'm checking the tunnel." They hesitated, but I know backup will follow. I step into the tunnel, flashlight beam dancing on damp walls. Every drop echoes. The ground slopes down, littered with debris. Rusted rebar, damp newspaper shreds, a solitary sneaker. The glow from outside fades. My breath sounds loud. Halfway through, I see it. Footprints pressed into mud. Bare feet, too small for the woman, too light for me. They lead deeper. My pulse spikes. I follow. The beam picks out more scraps. A torn photograph of a smiling child, a blood-spattered scrap of cloth. I swallow. A scraping noise ahead. I freeze. The beam reveals a figure hunched against the wall, a man, head bowed. I call, "Sir, police, come here." He lifts his head, eyes, empty pits, reflecting the light like twin coals. His mouth opens in a silent scream. I step back. He dissolves into shadow. I fire a warning shot. The echo rattles the tunnel. Nothing. Just that oppressive dark. My radio crackles. "Bell, you still there?" I force my voice steady. I need floodlights." Headlights flare at the tunnel mouth as backup arrives with a spotlight. Light floods in, revealing nothing but slick walls and scattered debris. We sweep the tunnel end to end. No sign of the figure. The woman's footprints vanish midway. At the far wall, I notice fresh scratches gouged into concrete. Letters scrawled haphazard, "Help me." The etching looks new, edges still damp. My stomach twists. I photograph it, radio for forensics. They hover at the entrance, uneasy. I glance back into the black. The whisper returns. "Find me." I step out into the night. The woman is in the squad car, wrapped in a foil blanket, staring at the tunnel. I approach. "You okay?" She nods, voice hollow. "I saw him. I heard him." I nod, though I don't feel okay. We pack up. The graffiti-scarred pillars stand silent. The city beyond carries on, oblivious. I feel them watching. those empty eyes in the dark. Later, I filed a report. Unexplained disappearance of transient. Female complains of whispered threats. Tunnel clear. Etching discovered. I call it probable hoax, but I know better. I hear the whistle of wind through the pillars, like laughter. That night I lie awake, the whisper echoing, "Find me." And I know I'll be back. Because someone is down there, trapped between worlds, and they need help. And I won't rest until I answer that scream. The wind had that hollow, shifting quality under the overpass, like the world itself was exhaling, an uncertain breath that rattled the loose debris at my feet. I stepped off the patrol car into the muted glow of the lone sodium lamp, my boots crunching on gravel and shattered glass. Officer Marcus Bell, Lindenwood, PD, midnight shift. 6 years on these streets, and I still haven't grown comfortable with this kind of silence. Dispatch had called it in 20 minutes ago. Screams under the Eastbrook Bridge, multiple callers. Nothing unusual for a Friday night, except the spot. An abandoned stretch beneath the highway, concrete pillars carved with graffiti, the usual homeless encampment scattered with burned-out barrels and plastic. Tarps. My flashlight beam cut through the darkness in a narrow wedge, illuminating damp newspapers plastered with headlines about missing persons. The pages curled at the edges, waterlogged and torn. Faint echoes of a freight train drifted from beyond the river, mingling with the distant hum of the city. Up close, I could smell mildew, burnt rubber, the tang of rust. I clicked on my radio. Bell on scene, moving in. No answer. Unit 2 was still 5 minutes out. I left the engine idling, the blue lights off to avoid spooking whoever was out here. The first tent I passed was nothing more than a plastic tarp stretched over rebar and shopping carts. An open coffin for someone's meager possessions. I crouched to examine footprints in the mud, bare, small, a woman's perhaps. They led away from the tent toward the central support pillar. I stood and swept the light upward. A slash of graffiti caught my eye. "Help me," scrawled in dripping red paint. Fresh, I thought, the edges still glossy. I snapped a photo with my phone. If it was a prank, it was a damn good one. But every instinct told me someone was in trouble. A low, keening moan drifted from deeper under the bridge. I followed the sound to a larger tent, canvas sides flapping in the breeze. The moan turned into a whispered chant. Officer, Bell. My heart skipped. I pressed against the fabric and called, "Police, open up." The moaning stopped. Silence pressed in. I unzipped the flap and shone the beam inside. A thin man, coat hanging off his shoulders, sat cross-legged, eyes fixed on me. He looked ancient, sunken cheeks, wild hair, skin the color of old parchment. "They won't let me leave," he rasped. "Who won't let you leave?" I asked, keeping my voice calm. He pointed past me into the deeper gloom. I spun the light around, nothing but shadow. When I turned back, the man had vanished. The tent was empty except for a single, half-burned candle and damp blankets. I swallowed hard, stepping out. My radio crackled. "Unit 2 en route 10-4. I responded, voice steadier than I felt. I moved on to the next shelter, a makeshift lean-to beneath a ramp. The smell here was stronger, sour sweat, rotting food, the acrid tang of gasoline from a can someone had left burning low. A woman's voice hissed, "Help me, please." I trained my light on the entrance. "Ma'am, police, show me your hands." The flap jerked open, revealing a young woman, dirt-smudged tears streaking her cheeks. She thrust out a trembling hand, palm cut and blood-streaked. "He's here," she gasped. "He watches through the cracks." I crouched beside her, heart pounding. "You're safe now. Where is he?" She pointed toward the dark tunnel that ran beneath the highway embankment. "In there," I hear him whisper. I clicked on my secondary flashlight and shone it down the tunnel's mouth. The beam vanished into an inky void. My boots echoed as I stepped forward. The woman turned to follow, but I stopped her. "Stay here. Backup's almost—" I never finished. A scuff of movement to my left froze me. I swung the light. Nothing. The whisper drifted. "Don't leave me." My pulse thundered. I radioed, belted dispatch. "Tent 4 clear. 1 female injured, laceration to palm. Send EMS. I'm checking the tunnel." The reply came faintly. "Copy, Bell." I squared my shoulders and moved into the darkness. The tunnel walls were slick with condensation. Each breath puffed white in the beam. The floor sloped downward, littered with debris, shards of glass, twisted metal, pages of soggy newspaper. As I advanced, I felt the weight of those pillars behind me, the world outside receding into a pinprick of light. Halfway through, I knelt to inspect something in the mud. A single sneaker, size small, mud-caked and torn. No matching shoe anywhere. Next to it, a scrap of cloth stained dark. I bagged both as evidence. Then the beam caught movement. A silhouette flitting across the wall, gone before I could focus. "Freeze!" I shouted, gun raised. Silence answered. My voice sounded ragged. The echo mocked me. I pressed on. The air grew colder, the darkness thicker. My flashlight began to flicker, battery failing. I shook it. The beam steadied. Ahead, something glinted, metal. I stepped closer and found a service badge lying in the muck. Lindenwood PD, Officer Sarah Ortega. Ortega went missing 3 nights ago, last seen on this shift. My heart clenched. I snapped another photo. A scraping noise came from the far end. I aimed the light. The tunnel stretched empty, but the sound persisted. Slow, deliberate, like nails on concrete. I edged forward, each step measured. Then I saw it. Scratches on the wall, letters etched deep, "Help me, Sarah." The gouges were fresh, flecks of rusted metal lay scattered below. I traced the words with a gloved finger, stomach twisting. Behind me, the woman's scream cut through the tunnel, the same woman I'd left by the tent. How did she get here? I spun, light swinging wildly. She stood at the entrance, silhouette framed by the overpass glow, eyes wide. She whispered, holding out a scrap of paper with Ortega's badge number scrawled in shaky ink. My radio crackled urgently. "Back up on scene, Bell." "You okay?" I forced a calm tone. I found Ortega's badge and a message. I swallowed. "Need forensics and EMS at tunnel mouth now." As I spoke, the light went out. Blackness swallowed me. I fumbled for a spare battery, heart hammering. The whisper came again, inches from my ear. "Find me." I froze, breath caught. The beam flickered back on. The woman was gone. My breath echoed. The tunnel yawned empty. I clicked off the flashlight, letting the glow from the overpass guide me back. My boots splashed through puddles. At the mouth, the forensics team waited. Floodlights trained on the graffiti-scarred pillars. I pointed to the etching. "Help me, Sarah." They began photographing. I exhaled, leaning against the damp concrete. Somewhere in the darkness, I felt eyes on me. The city hummed beyond oblivious. I pulled out my phone and dialed dispatch. "Bell, I'm going back in. Sarah's down there." No one answered. I stepped forward again into that living black. The whisper trailing me. "Find me." And I knew I would. The tunnel yawned before me like a wound in the earth, its wet walls slick with condensation, rivulets forming tiny rivulets that dripped into shallow puddles at my feet. Each drop rang out like a clock toll in the hush. I swallowed, forcing steadiness into my voice before keying the mic. Bell to dispatch. Backup's here. I'm going deeper. ETA on forensics. A crackle, then. They'll be 50 meters behind you, Bell. Proceed with caution. I clipped the radio shut and stepped forward, the beam of my flashlight bobbing across the curved ceiling. The tunnel sloped downward at a gentle angle. The further I went, the more the smell of mildew gave way to something fouler, a rancid, coppery stench that set my teeth on edge. My boots sloshed through ankle-deep water. Mud sucked at each step. I flicked on my secondary light. Its wider beam revealed chunks of concrete and twisted rebar protruding like broken ribs. About 20 meters in, I paused at a pile of rubble. Embedded in it was Sarah Ortega's patrol vest. Unzipped, mud-caked, one sleeve torn away. My heart tightened. I crouched, shining the light on her name patch, Ortega. The Velcro letters curled and stained. I reached out, fingers trembling, and peeled it free. As I bagged it for evidence, I heard a soft scuff behind me. I spun, gun raised, but saw only the wavering circle of light. "Officer Ortega, can you hear me?" I called, voice echoing. No answer, just the distant drip of water. My earpiece crackled. "Bell, are you still with us?" I hesitated. I think so." I forced myself to breathe evenly. I pressed on, following the central line of the tunnel. Graffiti gave way to raw concrete. The walls here had been patched crudely, as if someone had tried to seal off a side passage. A triangular seam ran up the left wall, sealed with fresh mortar that glistened unnaturally in my beam. I crouched and ran a gloved finger along the seam, sticky, warm, fresh. I raised my flashlight higher and saw a narrow gap at the top of the patch, just wide enough for a hand. Below it, scratch marks gouged the concrete, as if someone had clawed to escape. My pulse hammered. I fit my hand into the gap, something scraped against my palm, a thin, rectangular object. I pried it free, a weathered notebook, its cover torn, pages damp but intact. I flipped it open. Scribbled across the first page in cramped handwriting were date entries. April 12th, heard footsteps behind tent. Whisper, find me. April 15th, badge found, I'm scared. April 18th, they come at night, I can't. The rest was smeared with mud and blood. My stomach turned. This was Ortega's journal. She'd been mapping his movements, whoever he was. I stuffed the notebook into an evidence bag, heart pounding so loudly I feared it would set off my own earpiece. Then I heard it, a soft, metallic clang up ahead. I froze. The beam danced toward the sound. Halfway down the tunnel, a door stood ajar where no door should be. A rusted steel hatch framed in concrete, its hinges bent. Cold air seeped through the gap, carrying a faint whisper I barely caught. Hurry! My training screamed to wait for backup, but I couldn't leave Ortega, or whoever was down here, alone. I unshouldered my shotgun and approached the hatch. The metal was warm to the touch, as if something on the other side had been leaning against it. I shoved it open. The hinges groaned, revealing a shaft of blackness beyond. Another tunnel branching off at a steep decline. I radioed in. Bell, found a secondary shaft. Looks intentional, entering now. The reply was immediate. Negative, Bell. Wait for forensics. I hesitated, torn between procedure and instinct. Then the whisper came again, louder. Find me. That single plea cut through every caution. I slipped through the hatch. The air dropped several degrees. My flashlight beam caught rows of old support beams. Wooden timbers blackened with age, and the tunnel walls here were lined with rotting boards, as though someone had tried to shore up a collapse. Puddles reflected the beam, creating dancing patterns of light on the ceiling. I stepped carefully, each footfall echoing. 15 meters in, I spotted movement, a flash of fabric against the wall. I swung the light. Ortega's uniform sleeve hung from a nail driven into the beam. The rest of the shirt lay crumpled on the ground. My stomach lurched. I crouched, inspecting the fibers, snags and tears consistent with being dragged. My breath hitched. She'd been brought here, alive, or dragged here after. A shuffling sound behind me. I whirled, heart in my throat. My light found nothing but the beam's end disappearing into darkness. "Ortega," I called, voice raw. Silence answered. Then, unmistakable, a faint sob. Ahead, near a collapsed section, I saw a figure slumped against the wall, arms wrapped around knees. I sprinted forward. "Sarah!" I shouted, dropping to one knee beside her. Her head lolled forward, hair matted with mud and streaked with blood. I shook her shoulder. "Officer Ortega, it's Belle. Can you hear me?" She blinked, eyes unfocused. "Help him," she whispered, voice barely audible. "He's waiting." I pressed my radio. "Mayday. Officer down. Need medics at secondary shaft now." I ripped off my own jacket and used it to staunch the bleeding at her temple. Her breathing was shallow. I tore a strip and pressed it to her wound. She winced. "He's behind the wall," she gasped. "In the cracks." I shone my light on the wall behind her, ancient concrete scarred with dozens of small holes, each about the size of a fist. From one hole came a faint scratching, like fingernails dragging across stone. I aimed my beam at the spot. The hole's edges pulsed with shadow. "Don't go," Ortega croaked. "He'll follow." Her hand shot out, grasping my arm. Her grip was ice cold. The flashlight trembled in my other hand. I swallowed hard. "Sarah, stay with me. Medics are 2 minutes out." I scanned the wall. The holes formed a pattern, an arrow pointing downward toward a dark crevice beneath the floorboards. I pried at a loose board with my knife. It lifted easily, revealing a cavity beneath, just big enough for a person to crawl. The smell wafting up was fetid. Earth, rot, something older, decay. I peered inside. The beam caught a pale, twisted figure curled within, rocking slowly. It raised its head. Eyes, hollow black, met mine. Its lips parted in a smile that wasn't human. I staggered back, heart hammering. The figure whispered, "You came." Its voice was a chorus of echoes. The beam flickered. I heard a click. I glanced down to see my shotgun's safety had slipped off. I raised the muzzle reflexively. The thing dissolved into darkness, leaving only the echo of its words. A distant rumble told me medics had arrived. Flashlights bobbed at the hatch. I turned back to Ortega. Her hand slipped from mine. She stared at the floorboards, unblinking. I knelt, shaking her gently. Sarah, talk to me." She inhaled sharply, eyes clearing. "He's gone, but he waits below." I glanced at the cavity. It was empty now. No sign of the figure, no footprints in the mud. Only the faintest scrape marks on the wood. My radio crackled. "Belle, medics are with Ortega. Are you okay?" I forced a nod, though they couldn't see me. I found something beneath the wall." They called for me to exit. I stood slowly, glancing back at the crevice. The tunnel beyond seemed to sigh, as if relieved or disappointed. The city's hum seeped in through the hatch. I climbed out, letting medics take Ortega. Forensics crew spread floodlights across the shaft's entrance. As I stepped into the pale glow, I noticed the words scrawled on the concrete above the hatch in fresh mud. "Thank you." No one else saw it. I snapped a photo. My hands shook. That whisper trailed after me as I climbed back into the main tunnel. Find me. I know the next 4 sections will take me deeper. into places no officer should tread. But I can't stop now, because he's down there, and he's waiting. And Sarah's not out of danger. I turned back for one last look into the hatch. The darkness seemed to pulse, alive. And I understood. This is only the beginning. The beam of your flashlight trembles as you step once more into that yawning shaft. The world above, the distant city hum, the lamplight under the overpass, fades until all that remains is damp concrete, ancient timber supports, and the faint drip of water. You can feel the temperature drop another few degrees. Your breath puffs in front of you as you move. Officer Sarah Ortega lies moments behind you, already in the hands of medics, but your mind is tethered to her whisper. He waits below. You crouch at the mouth of the shaft, raising your light to study the jagged boards lining the walls. Each timber is blackened with age, splintered, and slick with mildew. The tunnel slopes downward at nearly 30 degrees, a deliberate descent. Someone carved this, or at least reinforced it, to lead deeper beneath the city. You glance back, the hatch frame, the floodlights, the anxious faces of forensics huddled just above. They wait for you to declare it safe. You take a steadying breath, holster your pistol but keep it at the ready, and step through. The boards creak beneath your weight. Mud clings to your boots. You switch the shotgun to your left hand and the flashlight to your right. Every sense is on high alert. 100 feet in, the tunnel widens into a low chamber. The beam picks out shapes half buried in muck. A rusted shopping cart wheel, fragments of a vinyl jacket, pages torn from Ortega's notebook fluttering in a faint breeze. In the center, a shallow pool reflects your light like liquid glass. You step around it, careful not to slip. From the far corner comes a scratching, rapid, urgent. You sweep the beam. At first there is nothing, then a slender hand, white as bone, pushes through a gap between boards. Fingers curl around the edge. You freeze. The hand retreats. Your pulse hammers. "Who's there?" you call. Your voice sounds alien in the stillness. No answer. Only the soft echo of water dripping, and that scratching receding into the darkness beyond. You press forward, following the wall until you find the source of the sound. A narrow crawl space sealed by overlapping boards, edges pried loose. The scratch marks are old and new, layers of clawed attempts to escape. You kneel, inspecting the gaps. Through a slot you glimpse pale skin, the curve of a cheek, and long dark hair matted with grime. A whisper echoes, "Please." Your hand trembles as you push boards aside. Behind them is a cavity just big enough to kneel. You reach in, voice low. "Officer Ortega?" "It's Bell. I'm here to help." The space is cold, the air stale. No response, only that soft, ragged breath. You lean in, sweeping the beam across the tiny chamber. At the far end, curled in fetal position, is Sarah Ortega's partner, Detective Jamal Reyes, missing since last week's stakeout. His uniform is tattered, nameplate scraped off, face gaunt. He lifts his head slowly. His eyes are gone, empty sockets weeping dark fluid. He opens his mouth in a silent scream. You stagger back, heart slamming. "Reyes?" you whisper, but he doesn't answer. He rocks, humming a lullaby you recognize from your childhood, that your own mother used to hum. The incongruity twists your stomach. You raise the shotgun. He tilts his head as though listening, then begins to crawl toward you through the boards. A flash of movement behind you. Ortega's flashlight lying on the floor, beam spinning across the ceiling. You realize she's not behind you. She never followed. She's still above, safe with the medics. Your radio crackles. "Bell? You copy?" You nearly drop the weapon. "I've found Reyes," you manage, "but he's not himself." "Pull back," the voice orders. Begin extraction. You hesitate. Behind the boards, Reyes claws at the floor, struggling toward you. You sweep the beam. More holes gouged in the wall, arranged now in a spiral pattern. In the center lies a small hatch, nearly flush with the ground, its latch broken. Cold air seeps from within. The humming grows louder. Reyes's lullaby merging with a second voice, a child's giggle. You can almost make out words, "Come play with us." Your rational mind screams, "Procedure, retreat, call SWAT." But another voice inside you, duty, fear for Ortega and Reyes, you know you have to see this through. You set the shotgun aside, kneel, and unlatch the hatch. It falls open with a metallic clang that echoes like a gunshot. Inside is a ladder descending into pitch black. The space smells of earth and rot. You lower yourself onto the top rung, flashlight in hand, and climb down 10 rungs until your boots hit solid ground, loose soil and broken bricks. The ladder sways. You slip, catch yourself. Your heart hammers. You sweep the beam. A narrow corridor stretches away, walls of raw earth reinforced with wooden beams and lengths of corroded pipe. The child's giggle echoes again, distant, playful. Your skin crawls. You advance, every step crunching soil and debris. 15 feet in, the corridor opens into a domed chamber. The beam picks out shapes arranged in a grotesque tableau. A circle of makeshift dolls, shopping cart wheels for heads, sticks for limbs, rags soaked in mud, standing around a puddle at the center. In the puddle floats a single object. Your flashlight battery, drained, its contacts slick with red fluid. You step closer. The dolls seem to lean toward you, silhouettes dancing in the beam. You swallow hard. You bend to retrieve the battery, and the beam flickers out. Darkness envelops you. You fumble, heart pounding. Then the beam sputters back on. You shine it around. At the chamber's edge stands a figure. A little girl in a filthy dress, hair matted, face turned away. She hums the same lullaby. She tilts her head, revealing those hollow eye sockets. Empty, but for darkness. She raises a hand, beckoning. You back away, breath catching. "Who are you?" you whisper. No answer, only that giggle, a chorus now, coming from every shadow. The dolls at the circle's edge seem to shift, rearranging, as if alive. Behind you, the hatch rattles. You whirl, shotgun in hand. Your light falls on a shape climbing the ladder. Ortega, drenched in sweat and mud, eyes wide. She mouths, "Get out!" You don't hesitate. You grab Ortega's arm, pull her back toward the ladder as the girl's giggle crescendos. You climb 2 rungs, then Reyes's voice, hollow, distant, calls from below. "Find me." Ortega scrambles past you, slamming the hatch. You follow, dropping the latch into place. The girl's laughter dies instantly. Silence. You both collapse against the boards, chest heaving. Above, forensics swarm the shaft. Light filters through the cracks. You push the boards aside and climb out, Ortega close behind. Medics rush to her side. You stand in the floodlights, heart hammering, covered in mud and something darker. A technician holds up your spare battery, its contacts stained red. He whispers, "We found this next to the dolls." You nod numbly. The dolls themselves have vanished. The tunnel behind you looks like any abandoned utility crawl. No sign of the hatch, no dolls, no little girl. Only the spiral of claw marks on the wall and the echo of that lullaby in your mind. You radio in. "Bell, scene secure. We need a full structural sweep. This area is compromised." As you speak, you glance back toward the overpass. The city lights shimmer. You feel, rather than hear, the whisper brush your ear. "Thank you. Now find me." Below, in the silent earth, something stirs. The beam from your flashlight slices through the darkness as you and Ortega emerge onto the damp gravel beneath the overpass. Above you, the concrete pillars loom like silent sentinels, their surfaces scarred with graffiti. Some of it fresh, some of it months old. The floodlights from forensics cast long, trembling shadows that seem to creep and twist across the pillars. The night air feels charged, as though the world just beyond the bridge has been severed from this place of secrets. Ortega leans heavily against you, her breaths shallow and rapid. Medics swarm around her, pressing gauze to the gash on her temple and murmuring reassurances you can't hear. You feel the weight of every second. The tunnel hatch is sealed. The dolls are gone, the little girl vanished, and somewhere beneath your feet, a network of tunnels and chambers stretches on, inhabited by something that whispers, scratches, and hunts. You know procedure demands waiting for SWAT, K9, structural engineers, a full hazmat sweep, but part of you can't tear yourself away. You forced the hatch closed, but you saw the way those boards rattled when that thing climbed out. You heard Reyes's voice, empty, haunted, calling from below, "Find me. You can't let it lie." A young technician approaches, holding out the spare flashlight battery stained red. "We collected this from the chamber," she says quietly. "And these." She gestures to bags of evidence. Ortega's partner's vest, torn and mud-caked. The children's dolls, now collapsed into shapeless rags. No sign of the girl or the dolls at the surface. You nod, swallowing. Chain of custody? Secured. Lab will test for DNA and blood residue, but whatever happened down there, it wasn't natural. You glance back to the mouth of the hatch, half hidden by shadows. The floodlights don't penetrate its depths. You feel the whisper brush your ear. "Find me," though no one else is close enough for a breeze. You close your eyes, committing the moment to memory. The smell of damp concrete, the slick of mud under your boots, the distant hum of the city beyond. Ortega's medic steps forward. "She's stable," he reports. "Concussion, mild hypothermia, lacerations. She'll recover physically, but she's rattled. You'd be too." You clasp Ortega's shoulder. "Stay with her." She nods, eyes far away. You turn back to the hatch. Forensics have begun marking the perimeter with evidence flags. Uniformed officers stand guard. You approach the nearest flag, yellow plastic fluttering in the breeze. The ground beneath is stained dark, a smear of mud and something darker. You kneel, pressing the heel of your glove into the smear. It's slick, viscous. Blood, you think, but old. You bag a sample. Above you, someone snaps photos of the pillars. You catch the glint of a camera lens. You step aside and watch the big picture. The abandoned strip mall behind you. Its boarded-up windows reflecting the floodlights. The highway overhead, cars speeding past without a clue. The dark tunnel entrance, yawning like an open wound. Your radio crackles. Bell. SWAT's on site. Perimeters secure. Structural engineers inbound. What's your status? You pause, choosing your words. "I want a full team down that secondary shaft. K9, tactical, thermal imaging, everything. And get me a tech with ground-penetrating radar. I want to know what lies beneath those boards." "Copy that. ETA 10 minutes. You glance back at the hatch. The damp wooden boards look deceptively ordinary now. No dolls, no little girl, no spiral of claw marks except the ones you memorized. But you know they're there, just out of sight, and you know the tunnels extend far beyond what you've seen. You draw in a breath and crouch, switching your flashlight to ultraviolet mode. You sweep the beam across the hatch frame and the surrounding concrete. Faint traces of bioluminescent residue glow in streaks. Fingerprints in the dust. Toe prints in the mud, all leading back into that black. You snap photos. This residue, whatever it is, could help map the path. A forensic specialist kneels beside you. "Never seen fluorescence like this on a case," she murmurs. "Could be biological, mold, fungus, something feeding on blood, or something else." You nod. "Mark it, collect samples. Everything we found down there, we log." She works methodically, collecting swabs. You stand and step back. The city's hum feels distant now, muffled by the weight of what you've uncovered. You reach into your pocket and pull out the small, mud-smeared notebook you retrieved from the patched seam. You flip through the pages. Ortega's journal, her final entries. April 18th, they come at night. I can't escape. He whispers through the cracks in my mind. I heard Reyes call my name. April 19th, found a hatch. Something moved beneath, I saw her. Child's eyes empty, I can't unsee it. April 20th, I fear for my partner. He's gone. I found this note. "Help me, Sarah. I don't know what I started." Your throat goes dry. You tuck the notebook into an evidence bag. You key the radio. Bell. Evidence logged. Procedural. But I need to go back in, personally. I need to map that chamber. I need to know who or what is down there. A pause. Then, "Bell, negative. You're not cleared for entry. This is a tactical op now. Stand by." You inhale, frustration flaring. But you know you can't push it further, for now. You step away from the hatch as SWAT officers in helmets and tactical vests prepare to descend. You watch their flashlights bob into the black. Your eyes linger on the wetboards. A uniformed officer falls into step beside you. "You gonna be okay?" he asks softly. You nod. "I will be, but someone needs to follow up on Reyes, and Sarah, she's not out of this yet." He glances at Ortega, now seated on the tailgate of an ambulance, wrapped in a foil blanket. She stares at the hatch, expression a mix of relief and terror. He sighs. "This city has its ghosts, man." You offer a weary half-smile. "Yeah, and we just opened a door to one of them." Behind you, the tunnel mouth seems to exhale, an almost audible sigh, as though something deep within is settling back into place. The forensics floodlights flicker. SWAT's voices echo from below. You feel the whisper again, barely a breath. "Find me." You turn. The graffiti "Help me" on the pillar gleams in the floodlight. And beneath it, carved into fresh concrete, you now see a new message, half hidden in shadow. "I found you." A chill runs up your spine. You radio in. "Bell, new message, at pillar 2. I found you." Dispatch responds with static. You step closer, fingertips brushing the concrete. The letters are warm, as if the message was written moments ago. You crouch and photograph it from multiple angles. The night feels alive with possibility and dread. You stand and look down at the sealed hatch. SWAT is gone silent. Your flashlight beam catches the edge of one board, where a single nail protrudes, bent. You gingerly touch it. The board shifts, just a fraction. Someone has been in and out since you left. The seal isn't perfect. 100 questions flood your mind. Who wrote, "I found you"? Was it Ortega, Reyes, or something else entirely? What lies beyond that hatch after SWAT went in? Why did those dolls vanish? Where is the little girl? And most pressingly, who or what will they bring up from the darkness? You secure your flashlight and holster your pistol. The medics finish loading Ortega into the ambulance. She gives you a look, hollow, haunted but resolute, and mouths 2 words, "Don't stop." You nod. You will not stop. Not until you know the truth. Not until you find whoever or whatever is down there, whispering through the cracks. And you'll keep answering that call, even if it means descending into the earth again and again. Because some cries for help don't end when you surface. They echo, they linger, and they demand you return. You step back from the pillar, eyes on the sealed hatch, on the city lights beyond, on the broken boards. The night wind stirs the gravel at your feet. Somewhere deep below, something breathes. And you know the story is far from over, because you found the message, and now you have to find what lies beyond those boards, and so you prepare. You call in the techs for mapping. You request the body cam footage, the drone scans, the canine teams. You'll assemble a team of specialists, structural, psychological, paranormal if necessary. You'll return to the darkness, kit in hand, every procedure memorized. Because you heard the scream, you saw the hollow eyes, you felt the whisper on your neck, and you promised yourself, and Ortega and Reyes, that you would find them. You are Officer Marcus Bell, Lindenwood PD, and this is only the beginning of the case they'll come to call the Echo under Eastbrook. The city hums. The overpass stands silent, and somewhere below, the darkness waits for you to open the hatch again. The question is, will you be ready for what answers you uncover? The world above felt impossibly distant as you unclipped your harness and slung the shotgun over your shoulder. The hatch lay sealed at your feet, its boards scarred and damp, the latch set but not fully secure. Evidence that someone or something had slipped in or out since SWAT's entry. The floodlights glared down, turning the underpass into a theater of harsh shadows. Ortega's ambulance sat idling nearby, tail lights pulsing red, her silhouette visible through the rear window. She watched you, eyes haunted but resolute. You nodded once, silent communication. You were going back in. Behind you, the tactical team assembled. SWAT officers in dark uniforms, canine handlers with a hesitant German shepherd, a structural engineer studying blueprints on a tablet, a forensic tech adjusting a ground-penetrating radar scanner, and Detective Ramirez, your partner from Homicide, checking his pistol. None wore expressions of optimism. The night had already claimed Ortega's partner and nearly consumed her. Yet here you all stood, poised on the edge of that open wound in the earth. You took point, flashlight and radio in hand. The team followed in single file, boots crunching on gravel. You paused at the hatch. The structural engineer, Dr. Chen, knelt beside you and shone his own light on the boards. "Load-bearing capacity is compromised," he murmured. "These timbers are old, rotten in places. We risk collapse if too many go down at once." You exchanged a look with him. "Understood. We'll proceed one at a time." You lifted the latch and pried the boards apart, just enough for you to slip through. The hatch protested with a low creak. You dropped through into the chamber, flashlight illuminating the muddy floor. The dolls were gone. The pool of water was undisturbed. The rasping lullaby and child's giggle were silent now, replaced by the distant drip of water. You signaled the team to descend one by one. The SWAT sharpshooter, Navarro, went next, securing the ladder. The canine team held back until you gave the word. Once everyone was down, you swept the beam across the chamber. The makeshift circle of stones you'd missed before, small river rocks arranged around the pool, glinted wetly. In the center floated Ortega's partner's badge, spinning slowly, face up. You knelt, heart clenching. You bagged it. Navarro trained his infrared scope along the walls. Nothing moved. Dr. Chen used a small hammer to tap the tunnel walls, listening for hollow spots. A faint resonance echoed near the far end, beyond the boarded crawl space you'd entered last time. You led the way toward it. The hush pressed close, broken only by your boot heels in mud. The beam landed on the triangular seam in the wall where you'd found the hidden notebook. The mortar had cracked outward. as if forced from within. You reached out, sweeping away mud to reveal Ortega's notebook cover pressed between the boards. You pried it free. The pages inside were damp but legible. The final entry read, "They want me to write. They want us in the dark. I don't." And then the page ended in a smear of dark fluid. You felt your stomach lurch. Navarro tapped your shoulder. You turned. His night vision goggles showed a faint shape darting at the edge of the light cone, just beyond the crawl space. You flicked the beam, nothing there. The dog let out a low whine. The handler whispered, "He smells decay, fear." The dog's hackles rose. You signaled to Dr. Chen, who examined the patched wall. "This was sealed recently," he said. "They didn't want anyone coming through here." You nodded. "We need to open it." He produced a pry bar and set to work. Boards creaked and split. You held the beam steady. Behind the boards lay the narrow crawl space, sloping down into darker earth. You took a deep breath and entered. Navarro followed, shotgun raised. The K9 team brought the dog to the opening, but held him back. You crouched, sliding forward on your belly. The air was colder here, staler, tinged with the coppery scent of old blood. You shone, the light around. The crawlspace walls were lined with crude etchings, handprints and scratch marks, overlapping layers from many who had sought escape. You traced one set of marks that spelled out a single word: help. Beneath it were more recent gouges, HIM. Your radio crackled. "Bell, status?" You whispered, at the crawlspace, proceeding inward. The voice cautioned, "Stay safe." You closed the mic. You advanced until the crawlspace opened into a low tunnel. Rough-hewn earth walls, reinforced with short lengths of pipe and rotting timber. The floor was slick with mud. You flicked on your secondary light. The beam revealed footprints, bare feet leading deeper, turning corners out of sight. You stepped carefully, following them. Navarro trained his scope on the walls. The dog sniffed at the earth, whining occasionally. 20 feet in, you came to a fork. At the left branch, the air seemed to pulse, and you thought you heard breathing. To the right, a faint glow, like bioluminescent mold, lingered on the walls. The footprints split. Some went left, some right. You hesitated, then chose left, driven by concern for Reyes and the promise of discovery. You rounded a bend into a vaulted chamber. The beam revealed horror. Dozens of makeshift figures hanging from overhead pipes, rags and wires twisted into humanoid shapes, dripping with mud and something darker. The walls were slick, covered in scrawled words. He took them. They remain. Find me. In the center lay a shallow pit filled with water. Floating in it were personal items: a child's shoe, a torn photograph, a police flashlight lens. You recognized Ortega's journal pages drifting in the water. Your throat tightened. Navarro leveled his shotgun. "Jesus," he muttered. You swallowed. "Document everything," you whispered. You knelt, photographing the tableau. The canine handler edged forward, dog at heel. The dog sniffed the water, then recoiled, hackles raised, teeth bared. It whimpered, then bolted back to the tunnel mouth, scratching to escape. A soft giggle echoed, far off, as if carried on a breeze. You spun, flashlight beam dancing over the hanging figures. They swayed slightly, though there was no breeze. You felt eyes on you. You called out, voice echoing, "Who's here?" No answer, only that laugh, distant and hollow. Then, from the darkness beyond the pit, came a shuffle. You and Navarro backed up as a figure emerged. Detective Reyes, uniform tattered, eyes hollow voids. But he moved jerkily, unnaturally, limbs at odd angles, head cocked. He held something in his hand, a small rag doll, filthy and wet. He extended it toward you. "Find me," he rasped, voice layered with echoes of others. The doll's stitched face seemed to grin. You swallowed. "Reyes, we're here to help." He tilted his head as if confused. Then he dropped the doll and lurched forward, disappearing into a side tunnel. The giggle swelled, now all around you. You turned, heart hammering. The scribbles on the walls pulsed with an otherworldly glow. Navarro shouted, "Sergeant, we need to leave, now!" But you shook your head. "Not yet." You pocketed the doll. "We're too close." You and Navarro pursued Reyes into the side tunnel. The corridor narrowed, walls damp, closing in. The footprints glowed faintly under your beam. You followed them until you reached a dead end, a solid wall of earth patched with timbers. In the center was a niche, just large enough for a person to stand. Within it lay Reyes's partner's badge, Ortega's journal, and the doll's counterpart, another rag figure. Around them, scrawled in the mud, "Together." Your breath caught. You stepped closer. The ground beneath the niche was soft. You knelt and pressed your palm. The mud gave way, revealing a metal ring embedded in concrete. You heaved on it. It lifted with a groan, uncovering a narrow shaft descending into blackness. Navarro trained his shotgun on the opening. "That's it," he murmured. "That's where he's hiding." You peered down. The shaft was barely wide enough to lower a person on a rope. The air rising from it was fetid and cold. You radioed up. "Bell, secondary shaft found in lower chamber. Coordinates coming." You heard the dispatcher relay instructions. Engineers began rigging a rope and pulley system above. You turned back to the niche. The twin dolls lay side by side, their stitched faces cracked with mud. You picked them both up. They were warm, as if recently held. You felt a tremor run through you. You looked at Navarro. "Ready?" He nodded. You tied yourself to the rope, flashlight secured to your chest. The engineer gave the signal. You lowered yourself into the shaft, sliding down until your boots touched the damp earth at the bottom. Navarro followed. The rope above creaked. You shone the light around. The space opened into a vast cavern, jagged walls glistening with moisture. Stalactites dripped into shallow pools. The air was cold, oppressive. In the center lay a massive stone dais carved with symbols that matched the graffiti above ground. The looping letters, the spiral motif. Around it lay dozens of rag dolls, each unique, arranged in concentric circles. Atop the dais stood a figure, tall, thin, silhouette blurred as if seen through water. It held a lantern that cast long, quivering shadows. Your breath caught. You raised your voice. "Show yourself." The figure turned. Under the lantern's glow you saw a face, part human, part something else. Skin pale and stretched, eyes black voids, mouth curved in an unsettling smile. It lifted a hand. In its palm lay Jamal Reyes's police badge. You swallowed. "Why?" you demanded. "What do you want?" It whispered, voice like wind through reeds. "Balance." Behind you, Navarro snapped a photo. The figure's lantern light revealed dozens of carved names on the dais, missing persons and officers. Ortega, Reyes, dozens more. You realized with horror this entity collected souls, preserving them in this ritual space. It looked at you and tilted its head. "Find me," it repeated, then raised the lantern higher. The flicker revealed your own name carved on the dais in fresh scratches. Beneath it, a date, tonight's date. Your heart froze. You stepped back. Navarro grabbed your arm. "We need to go, now." You glanced at the dolls in your hand. Each represented someone lost, Reyes, Ortega, others. The entity's lantern light danced across them. You understood, if you left, it would claim you next. If you stayed, you might save those souls. You looked up at the figure. It whispered one final time. Choose. You drew your flashlight and shotgun. We choose to end this, you said. You turned to Navarro. Burn it all down. Navarro hesitated. Sergeant. You nodded. We have no choice. He raised the shotgun. You fired at the lantern. The beam shattered the glass, extinguishing the light. Darkness engulfed the cavern. You felt a wind as if the space exhaled in anger. The dolls at your feet rustled, then collapsed into rag heaps. The dais cracked, fissures racing outward. The earth trembled. You shouted, "Climb!" Navarro grabbed the rope. You both ascended as the cavern roared behind you, stone grinding, wood splintering. Above, the engineers and SWAT pulled you up, just as the hatch collapsed inward with a thunderous crash, sealing the darkness once more. You lay on the gravel, gasping, covered in mud and debris. Navarro helped you up. The tactical team backed away as the rubble shifted, dust rising. The floodlights flickered. The dais collapse sounded like distant thunder. Then silence. Ortega stepped forward, cradling the rag dolls. She whispered, "Did you get them all?" You nodded, voice raw. "We got them." She placed the dolls on the ground. They lay still. The tunnel mouth gaped like a wound, but no sound emerged, only the city's distant hum. You surveyed the scene, the collapsed hatch, the scattered dolls, the fissured concrete. The forensics techs began collecting remains. Dr. Chen shook his head in disbelief. "I never thought I'd see whatever that was." You exhaled, feeling the weight lift, but only slightly. You reached into your pocket and pulled out Ortega's notebook. The final entry you'd added yourself. "They are free. The balance is broken, but some doors once opened never truly close." You closed the notebook and looked at Ortega. She met your gaze, exhaustion, and something like relief in her eyes. Ramirez approached, offering a hand. You clasped it. Above, the floodlights shone on the broken boards. The graffiti "Help Me" had been partially erased in the collapse. A few letters remained. E-L-P. Someone had scrawled beneath it in fresh paint. "Thanks." You frowned. The message was ambiguous. Were you thanked or warned? You stepped closer. The chipped paint revealed another word faintly inscribed beneath, U.S. The full original message had read H-E-L-P-U-S. Now only E-L-P-U-S remained. The missing H and S lay buried in the rubble. You turned away, heart heavy. The overpass loomed, indifferent. The city lights glittered beyond. You whispered to the night, "We heard you." Ortega slid a doll into your hand. Reyes's doll, intact but empty. "He's gone," she said softly, "but we brought him home." You nodded. You would file the report. Structural collapse, recovery of remains, possible mass grave. You would scrub the graffiti, seal the tunnel, and advise the department to declare the site off limits. But you knew the truth. Somewhere beneath Eastbrook, in the ruins of that chamber, something still lingered. A trace of that entity's hunger, a faint echo of lost voices. As you climbed back into the ambulance with Ortega, you felt the whisper once more, so soft you almost questioned it. "Find me." You glanced back at the darkness under the bridge. The hatch was gone, the board splintered, the chamber collapsed. Yet you sensed an opening, a crack in reality. The graffiti on the pillar, half erased, seemed to shimmer. You pressed your hand to your radio. "Dispatch, this is Bell. Case closed, but request ongoing monitoring of the site. And keep an eye on me." They replied with standard acknowledgement. You switched off the radio and sat back, eyes fixed on the overpass. Ortega leaned against you, silent. The city slept. The overpass stood silent guard, but you knew the echoes remained. Voices calling from the dark, waiting to be heard. You closed your eyes as the ambulance pulled away, the night shifting around you, and somewhere, deep beneath the concrete and earth, a faint giggle echoed through the ruins, and a single word drifted upward on the stale air. Found. You ride back to the station in near silence. The ambulance's red lights pulse on the dark pavement, painting the squad car interior in urgent stripes of color. Ortega sits beside you, wrapped in a foil blanket, staring out the window with hollow eyes. You keep your hand on her shoulder, steady, reassuring, though inside your mind still races with images of that subterranean chamber. The rag dolls, the dais, the carved names, and most of all the figure with the black, empty eyes holding Reyes's badge. By the time the ambulance doors swing closed, you've keyed your radio. All units clear the underpass, scene secure, tactical collapse confirmed. Forensics to process rubble, medical to monitor Ortega and unit activity. The dispatcher's voice is calm, professional. You kill the lights and siren and drive the last half mile back to Lindenwood PD with Ortega leaning against you, exhausted. Once inside the precinct, you park in the Sally Port. Ortega is led away by a medic. You pause at the door to watch her go. She glances back, lips parting as if to speak, and then the doors close. You turn and head into the station's echoing corridors. In the briefing room, Detective Ramirez, Dr. Chen, Navarro, and the K-9 handler await you. They file in behind you as you flip on the fluorescent lights. Ramirez nods, expression grim. Sergeant Bell, he begins. We've prepped the report. Forensics confirms human remains consistent with Ortega's partner, and at least 6 other missing persons cases dating back 5 years. The structural collapse sealed the chamber. GPR showed no additional voids. You rub your face. The entity, whatever it is, collected them over time. The ritual dais carved those names. When we destroyed the lantern, the chamber collapsed, freeing those souls. You pause, watching Navarro unwrap the rag dolls on the table, each one soaked through, stitching frayed. He lays them out carefully. Ortega's doll, Reyes's doll, and 4 others, faces blank, identical. Dr. Chen clears his throat. I ran samples on the bioluminescent residue. It's not mold or fungus, it's some phosphorescent mineral, possibly introduced by an external source. The fluorescence matched traces on the tunnel walls up to the hatch and on the pillar graffiti. He taps his tablet, bringing up images. Glowing streaks mapping a path from the overpass down into the earth. He continues, we suspect the entity created the tunnels, reinforcing them with scavenged materials to form a labyrinth beneath the city. Ramirez frowns. That labyrinth could extend for blocks under Eastbrook. If it reopened elsewhere, we could have further collapses, and worse, missing officers or civilians. You lean forward, voice low. We need to seal it permanently, demolish the hatch area, fill the shafts with concrete, and guard the site 24/7 for at least a month. Ramirez nods. I'll draft the request. Silence hangs for a moment, until Navarro clears his throat. Sergeant, what about the dolls? They vanished after the collapse? He gestures to the ones on the table, now only 4. We recovered 4. 2 went missing in the rubble. Your stomach twists. Which names correspond? You consult the recovered journal pages pinned to a whiteboard. The entries listing dates and names. Ortega, Reyes, then 2 more. Maria Nayen, transient missing 3 years ago, and a local teenager, Derek Marsh, vanished near that bridge last fall. The missing 2 dolls must represent yet unrecovered souls. Ramirez glances at you. so 2 remain unaccounted for. You nod. And those 2, they may still be down there, or wandering the tunnels. You feel the weight of responsibility settle on your shoulders. You are the one who answered the scream, who opened the hatch, who destroyed the ritual. Now, you must ensure no one else falls prey. Later, back in your office, you close the door and sit at your desk. The clutter of case files, notebooks, and a half-empty coffee cup surrounds you. You pull out Ortega's notebook one last time. The final entry reads, April 20th, we broke the circle. They're free. But some doors, once opened, never close. I hear the whisper in my dreams. Find me. You close the leather cover and stare at the badge you retrieved. Reyes's badge, now cleaned and polished, lying beside it. You press your palm to the cool metal, a promise. You will find the missing 2. Your phone buzzes. It's dispatch. A minor disturbance call at an abandoned subway vent 2 blocks from Eastbrook. People reported hearing children laughing beneath the grate. The call is low priority, but your gut tightens. You check the time, 3:15. The city is asleep. You grab your jacket, strap on your badge and flashlight, and head out. Ramirez catches you in the hall. You heading back? He asks. You look at him. Someone has to check. Could be nothing. But if it's them, you nod toward the tunnel hatch in your mind. I'll be damned if I leave it to someone else. He nods. I'm with you. Outside, the night air is cool. The precinct lights receding behind you as you drive toward the vent. You park under a flickering street lamp. The grate sits in the sidewalk. Old steel bars, chipped paint. You crouch and train your flashlight into the darkness. At first, you see only debris, leaves, discarded wrappers, a puddle reflecting your beam. Then, faintly, you hear it, soft giggles, plural, echoing from below. Your heart hammers. You radio in, Bell and Ramirez at secondary vent, hearing possible voices. Request K9 and tactical. Dispatch responds, copy that. ETA units, 2 minutes. You glance at Ramirez. He smirks, half nervous. Déjà vu? You manage a small smile. Let's hope it's just kids trespassing. You unlatch the vent grate, surprisingly loose, and pry it open. The hinges creak. A column of stale air rises, carrying the faint scent of earth and mildew. You shine your light down a narrow shaft. Smooth concrete walls, damp floor. 2 ladder rungs descend into darkness. You climb down, Ramirez right behind. The grate clangs shut above you. Your light reveals fresh graffiti, a spiral symbol scratched into the wall, identical to the one you destroyed on the dais. Beneath it, the words, "Find us." Your breath catches. Ramirez's beam picks up 3 small rag dolls sitting on a ledge, one in the shape of a child, one like Ortega's, one new to you. A tiny figure wearing a sheriff's hat. You step closer. The dolls are soaked, stitching frayed, eyes black holes of cloth. Each sits upright as if waiting. You kneel and pick up the sheriff hat doll. You turn it over. Inside, the hat is carved a name, Bell. Your name. Ramirez's voice is barely a whisper. They want you. You swallow. The doll's cloth body is warm to the touch. You glance at the spiral scar on the wall. It pulses faintly under your flashlight as if alive. The whisper brushes your ear. Find us. You stand, heart pounding. Ramirez shines his infrared. No heat signatures beyond you 2, but that spiral glows. You feel the boardwalk of nightmares opening beneath the city once more. You look at Ramirez. We're not done. He nods, raising his shotgun. Let's go. You pocket the doll. As you step deeper into the vent, the grate above clicks. The latch resealed itself. You shine your light ahead. The tunnel stretches on, sloping downward, beckoning. Some doors, once opened, never close. And now you carry their summons in your hand, a doll bearing your name. Together, you and Ramirez descend into the dark, ready for whatever remains to be found, because the echo under Eastbrook was only the beginning, and the real search has just begun.